call this meeting of the Salem Housing Authority for May 13th to order. If the recorder would please call a roll.
Commissioner Tessler.
Present.
Commissioner Nanke.
Here.
Commissioner Clausen.
Here.
Commissioner Dickey.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Benars is absent, and sitting in for him tonight is guest Commissioner Trevor Benars.
Here.
Commissioner Clem.
Here.
Chair Bennett.
Here. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Excellent. This is the portion of the agenda for public comment, and we have Amy Sackett signed up. Amy? Yes, yes. And you'll have 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, that orange light comes on to just warn you, and then the red light will come on, and if you just wrap it up then as quickly as you can.
I'm here as a public person. I am a recipient of Section 8 housing through Salem Housing Authority. I'm questioning some due process of my rights concerning having a service dog. In the past, I have been able to take any medical expenses from a service dog and use it as a deduction to determine my portion of rent. I went in on April 25th for my yearly review and was told that this was no longer possible, that there had been a meeting and a memo put out that stated that my dog had to be either registered or certified. There is no local, state, or federal organization that will register a service dog, and according to the Department of Justice, there never will be, because it's considered an unfair burden to people who have a disability to make them pay to have this registered. I then contacted Philip Dean, the head of the Housing Authority, the following Tuesday. He had no idea of this happening at all. My question is, if there had been a memo and a meeting concerning this, that my hearing officer had told me there had been, who was the person that held the hearing? Who sent out the memo if the head of the department knew nothing about this? Philip then called HUD and told me that my case was in the gray area and that they would side in my favor and that they could use my expenses. Since then, and he would get a hold of my hearing officer. Since then, I've been in there twice to try to find out when they're going to take my bills. I have had no success. No answer, no nothing. I'm not just bringing this forward for my sake. I know a large number of people who have qualified service dogs, and if HUD says you have to take them and use them for deductions, I want to know what your plan in the future is to make this a proposal, a written proposal, and put it into the laws of your housing authority.
Great. Thank you very much. That was very helpful. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Welch, do you have any explanation what's going on here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Andy Welch. I don't have an explanation for this, but I'll certainly look into it and we can get back with and talk about that. I don't know off the top of my head what the HUD regs are on this, but we'll look at this.
Mr. Welch, if it's agreeable to you, Ms. Sackett, could we get your information with Mr. Welch, who manages the Housing Authority, and make sure we get, none of us, I was talking to the city attorney, just aren't aware of this, and give us a chance to kind of clear this up. Would that be okay with you?
Definitely. Like I said, my major concern is that there should be a written procedure somewhere, and if there was supposed to be a meeting and a memo sent out about this, and the head of the department knew nothing about it. Who supposedly sent this out?
We'll get you the head of the department here.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for coming down and talking to us about this. Commissioner Nanki, the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, I would move the consent calendar.
Second.
Second by Tesler. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Pass the consent calendar. And we have no special orders of business, unfinished business, new business, so we are adjourned.
Are you looking at internet? Are you looking at internet right now? Are you? Can you see the? Yeah. Okay. Web page, not file. Well. I got to store my stuff. I got to store my stuff.
Get into this. I was on this is the online version. Was this sitting on your table? Yeah, it was sitting here. Okay. That's what they do when they're See, what we just did is we just did the house. So the next
Yeah,
one
that's
is,
what I'm usually at.
and then we'll do this one. Your dad, mom, so did they text her?
Hey.
All right, good evening, everyone. I appreciate so much that we have a packed chambers. I appreciate so much that we have a community that is involved and cares and shows up when we have important issues to discuss. There'll be one other thing that I'll appreciate very much, and that it would be if the lawn signs would be put away. They're distracting, and I think it's not appropriate in this chamber to have those signs up. So if you'll please put those signs down, then we'll proceed with our evening. I also remind people that when we are into the public hearing process, that it's not Monday Night Football, so no cheering, no applauding, no booing, none of that, because that really only disrupts the chamber and really breaks the tone that we're trying to have here, which is for hospitable debate, clear information, and courteous behavior. So I appreciate that. We'll get started in a minute. All right, I'm going to call to order this evening's meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency for May 13th, 2013. And if our recorder will please call the roll.
Board Member Bennett.
Here.
Board Member Tesler.
Present.
Board Member Nanki. Here. Board Member Clausen. Here. Board Member Dickey.
Here.
Board Member Thomas.
Here.
Board Member Bernards is absent, and in his place tonight is guest Board Member Trevor Bernards. Board Member Clem.
Here.
Chair Peterson.
Here. Mr. Bassett, would you please put the sign down? That's my request. Just get it out of sight. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to proceed. Do we have any reports of boards, commissions, or committees this evening? All right, seeing none. Public comment. Has anyone signed up? Nope. All right, no public comment either. Member Bennett, would you please introduce the consent calendar?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move the consent calendar. Councilor Tesler would like to record a conflict of interest, and she won't be voting on 4.3B.
4.3,
B.
B as in boy?
B as in boy. It's
Thank you.
due to her employment.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by by Member Bennett, seconded by Member Dickey to approve the consent calendar, noting that Councilor Tesler is declaring a conflict of interest on 4.3B. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Under our information reports, there are a couple of information reports in your packet. Were there any questions about information reports? All right. I don't see any special orders of business. I see no unfinished business. We have no public hearing in the Urban Renewal Agency. No new business. We are adjourned. All right. I'll now call to order this evening's meeting of the Salem City Council for Monday, May 13th, 2013. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Bennett.
Here.
Counselor Tesler.
Present.
Counselor Nanki. Here. Counselor Clausen. Here. Counselor Dickey.
Here.
Counselor Thomas.
Here.
Counselor Bernards is absent, and in his place tonight is guest Counselor Trevor Bernards. Counselor Clem.
Here.
Mayor Peterson.
Here. Thank you. Counselor Bennett, would you please introduce the approvals, the additions and deletions?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move approval of the additions, deletions, and revisions to the May 13th agenda.
It's been moved by Counselor Bennett and seconded by Counselor Clausen to approve the additions, deletions, and revisions. Is there discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, we have a couple of, perhaps a couple of council comments this evening. That's the next thing on our agenda. I know maybe we have, what? Yeah, Counselor Dickey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to report that we had our grand opening of Hoodview Park, our ribbon cutting, on Saturday afternoon. It was a beautiful, warm, sunny Saturday, and a lot of kids were there. The mayor was there. City Manager Norris was there. A few of our Parks and Recreation Board members were there, as well as Representative Brian Clem came out. So it was really fun. We had a lot of kids help to cut the ribbon, and if you, I'm not sure where all the pictures are posted. I did notice that Salem Parks volunteers and also Salem Neighborhoods posted some pictures on Facebook today. So I don't know if there are other places we'll be able to see them, but it was really fun, and it's really a needed park in the neighborhood, and the neighbors are really appreciative to have that out there now, and it's really beautiful. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it's just on the north end of town near the PGE facility on Portland Road, right off of Portland Road on Kale Road. So enjoy.
Great. I'll add to that. It really was a festive occasion, and I want to thank the Salem Parks Foundation as well as the staff that work in our parks area and all of the city staff that helped make that a really fun and joyous event. City Manager Linda Norris was there, and I know Linda Norris, our city manager, has worked very hard to bring that park to fruition as well.
And I tried out
you.
some of the playground equipment too, and it works great.
Good job. Someone had their hand up. Oh, Councilor Clem.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I just want to announce the completion of the second annual West Salem Run, the Mad Hatter Run. It's always the day before Mother's Day from here until they change Mother's Day, I guess. But it was a great event supported by city staff, so really want to congratulate city staff for helping out. It's interesting, we start over in Wallace Marine Park and then run around a little bit and then end up over by the Echo Ball where we turn around and come back. And so the lament was that we couldn't keep going to Minnow Brown, but told them to keep their fingers crossed and support the next bridge. And we can actually really have someday a half marathon or a marathon, because it's neat, the thought of connecting 3 parks. But hats off to the West Salem Business Association for putting that together and raising money for our 2 middle schools in West Salem. So,
Excellent. Great news. I'll add one final comment, and that was on Saturday night. City Manager Linda Norris and I had the pleasure of attending the Firefighters Union annual dinner and recognition for the 10 retirees. And I want to tell you, you know, it was really pretty impressive as I saw those men come up and the comments that were made about them and the collective years that they have served this city and served it well. And I just felt honored to sit there as the mayor and hear those stories and you know, visit with their families and recognize that they had done a tremendous job over a number of years all over the city in a number of positions. And I just was very, very proud of them and very pleased. We're going to miss them. They're not going to miss us. I think they're going to go on and do all kinds of great things. So to the firefighters, it was well organized and a lovely evening. Chief, you're back there. Carry that message out for us. That's great. Thank you. Okay, we have some ceremonial presentations this evening. And the first one, we'll start with our police department and Commissioner Patty Milne. Welcome, Commissioner. How are you? All right, we have several. Is this on? Yes? No? Yeah, it is now. Yeah, it is. Okay, all right. Well, I feel safe now. It really is a pleasure and an honor always to have Commissioner Patty Milne from Marion County in our chambers, and also Allison Kelly, who is the head of the Children and Families Commission. I think it has a new name in her department, Community Service Department. And so we are here really to talk about the Salem Police Department and the work that they did on Drug Safe Project. And would you like to talk about that?
Thank you, Mayor Peterson and councilors, and gosh, such a nice audience here this evening. Allison Kelly and I were just here about a month ago to talk about and share with you a proclamation regarding this drug safe program, and it's all about bringing awareness and getting more community involvement in this horrible new development of the abuse of these prescription drugs, and Allison will talk a little bit more about that. But we came to do that, and we are back this evening because we want to present your chief and his officers with a plaque, because we want to thank you and them so much. The fantastic work they did. We had 2 summits, and their presentations were just so outstanding and so well received, and it means so much to us because this drug safe effort is one that's going to continue for some time to come as we help people to understand more, educate the community, get more information out so everyone can get involved in this important issue. So we're very pleased to be here. Thank you.
And Mayor Peterson, we also have a letter to accompany this plaque, and if it's all right, I'd like to just read that letter out loud so that we can help people understand what this project was. And the letter is addressed to Chief Moore. So, dear Chief Moore, on behalf of the Marion County Children and Families Commission, the Marion County Public Safety Coordinating Council, and the entire Drug Safe Work Group, we write to express our sincere appreciation for the outstanding contributions of the Salem Police Department to the Drug Safe Project. The Salem Police Department has played a critical role in helping to educate the community about the life-threatening issues relating to prescription drug and heroin abuse in Salem and throughout Marion County. Through your membership on the Children and Families Commission and the Marion County Public Safety Coordinating Council, you have provided thoughtful leadership and guidance throughout this project. You made it possible for the project to be supported by Deputy Chief Jim Ferraris, Sergeant Jeff Barrett, Sergeant Jim Welsh, Detective Sean Bennett, and Officer Mark Jantz. Their input, informational presentations, and videography have helped to simplify complicated information and make it available to a wider audience. As a result, Drug Safe project leaders were able to host 2 community meetings in April of 2013 that provided valuable training to many members of the community about the risks of prescription drug and heroin abuse. Leaders of the Drug Safe project urged parents and other caregivers to support and supervise the children and teens in their care. The short film, Youth Voices, A Prescription for Prevention, produced by the Salem Police Department, helped to integrate critically important messages to parents through the voices of local youth. We are confident that this will be an effective way to help parents in the complex task of keeping their children and families safe. Thank you once again for your contributions to our community. We appreciate all you do, and we look forward to our continued work together. And it's signed by Commissioner Milne and myself. And although we have named specific members of the department, we do recognize that it's a whole department effort, that all of your officers on the street and your leaders see what happens and they want to help make a difference, and they do. And the compassion that we've personally observed with the most difficult situations, we're really here to honor that tonight. So thank you for all of that you do. And thank you, Mayor Peterson.
You know, Chief Moore, it's such a pleasure and an honor for me to be a mayor in a city where I know we have such a fine police force, and where I know that you, as the leader and the visionary for the team, really have always set the highest standards for participation in the community. Community policing is a value, and we all thank you for the efforts that you've put towards that. Here is the letter that you may take home and put on your kitchen wall or refrigerator, or I hope maybe in the office. But congratulations. Congratulations to you, certainly. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Now we're going to have a video, right? We have a 6-minute video that you're showing?
That's up to you.
Yes, that's fine. Let's let it roll. Okay, thank you. All right. Is somebody getting the lights? It'll work with that, with the lights on. Okay.
I think it's really easy to get prescription drugs.
I think that if you wanted to get prescription drugs, I think it really depends on where you live.
I think it's really easy to get prescription drugs. If you think if the kids want it enough, then they'll find a way to get it.
Or that one you can become addicted, but just that was kind of obvious though.
The danger of prescription drugs to me are addiction. Overdosing, I guess, would be a pretty big concern.
You could get very sick from overdose, and sometimes it's fatal. I think if kids use it enough and it's too many at one time, they could overdose and die.
Drugs because I care about my future, and if you abuse your health now, then your future is just going to go south from there.
I know how they affect people, and I don't want my life to be like ruined because I
messed up when I was a teenager.
Really happy with my life. I don't see it getting me further in life, and I have like sports and friends and family that just make me happy, just being me and with nothing else. So
I know what I want, where I want to be in like 10 years, and my family is supporting that. And so I don't want to let them down by doing things that could affect me harshly in the future. So, and if I let them down, I
At the front.
My parents have the most influence over me. That and my friends. I think I have a good group of friends, close knit, and they really help me out.
my parents and some of my really close friends. It's probably myself, my parents, or my religion. Prescription drugs would be to inform them and let them know all the dangers and everything that could be surrounded with using them and how they could be addictive very quickly.
Parents need to keep their prescription drugs locked away somewhere so kids can't get a hold of it. And if their kids are prescribed something, sit them down and tell them the dangers of them and monitor their use of it, not just listen to what the pharmacist has to say about it.
Be involved with their lives so they know, if their kids are behaving differently, or, not doing their homework, stuff like that. That might be a possible indicator of using drugs.
And just to be involved in your kids' lives.
To be with them and do things with them, be there to support them, be a part of their support group.
Thank you. Well done. Very nicely done. Thank you. All right, we have another organization, another event to talk about and to recognize tonight, and this is about 1,000 Souls, which is a partnership between the City of Salem and South Salem High School. We have some students here and some staff, and I want them to come up. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. All right, we got dueling microphones here. So would you like, first of all, let's introduce yourself, and then Lori, and talk about the actual project. And I believe that then they have a video.
Yes, we do.
All right, and then we have a video. All right. Would you like to-
Well, my name is Melinda McCullough. I'm the Recreation Specialist for the Public Works Department, Parks and Transportation Division. And this weekend marks the 39th annual Country Kids Relays. We have 50 schools participating this year. And one thing that we are doing differently is we have paired with South Salem High School Avid Class of 2014 and their 1,000 Souls project. We discovered that there were children wanting to participate in the relays that were not able to because they didn't have shoes to be able to run in. Some run with their soles falling off, some run barefooted. So we partnered with 1,000 Souls to provide runners with shoes this year. And this is Lori Shaw with Community Development. She's a youth development coordinator, and she'll give you a little more information about 1,000 Souls. Thanks.
Good evening. My name's Lori Shaw. I'm Youth Development Coordinator within the Community Development Department and its Neighborhood Enhancement Division. I'm also the project manager for the Shoe Drive and the Youth Adult Partnership with South Salem High School. The past 3 years, we have service learning mini grants that we've provided to South High to help develop community leaders and help them with their efforts as they met the needs, as they look to meet the needs of children and youth in need in our community. And they decided on shoes, and they may touch on that in a minute. The Country Kids Relays is one of our main beneficiary partners, but also the Children in Crisis Action Team Network, which is called CCAT. A representative couldn't come tonight, but it represents within that network the Salem-Keizer School District, Home Youth and Resource Center, Host, Youth Outreach, Marion County Runaway and Homeless Project. I could go on forever. It's a large network that serve not only the city of Salem, but Marion County as a whole. They are direct beneficiaries of the shoes. We wouldn't be able to do any of this, though, without the strong support of the community. 1,000 souls is a lot of shoes to collect. A few highlights here that I'd like to mention. The city of Salem ran a shoe drive for two months, all departments, and brought in 290 pairs of shoes, of which 44 are children's shoes that will help with the relays. Cash donations from employees and the Salem Professional Firefighters Association also donated to this cause. Businesses signed up. All the Starbucks locations in the Salem-Keizer area ran a drive for 2 months and brought in 230 pairs of shoes. Gallagher's Fitness Resources and Woodburn Company stores provided nearly 200 pairs of new or once used shoes. There's a lot of runners that decide they don't like that pair, so they turn them back in. Other significant contributions came from Keizer Courthouse Fitness Club, Salem Racket Sports, La Margarita Express. We received major discounts from Nike. Adidas provided some shoes. Schools that participated beyond South High were McKay, Chemeketa Community College, and Mary Aaron Bush Elementary Schools. Community members donated cash donations through donation jars like at Casey's Hot Dogs and the Salem Grand Hotel, or by mailing in personal checks. The Optimist Club of Salem, along with other community members, actually, we call them the street team. They went around to all the locations and picked up the shoes. We needed that help too, because not all teenagers have cars and can drive yet. Finally, a very significant partner of ours was the Ike Box Cafe, which is downtown. It sits right next to the Salem YMCA. That's actually a youth organization. It's a nonprofit called Isaac's Room. They not only hosted a bin, but provided space downstairs for us to kind of have as a storage and processing center. They've now committed to providing this space year-round and are going to support the idea of an additional teen service project to build shelves, tables, storage bins, rolling carts for a more efficient system, as well as a shoe room for kids to try on shoes and feel like they're a little bit more like at a shoe store, trying on shoes. So it's been an exciting 5 months. I could go on forever about highlights. We greatly thank the community for their support this year.
All right, I'm Molly Edwards, and I am a teacher at South Salem High School. I teach math in a class called AVID. For those of you that are not familiar with AVID, it's an acronym that stands for Advancement via Individual Determination, and it's a college readiness program for students that maybe are first-generation college-bound or may not typically go to college or may not know how to navigate the system to get to college. And the partnership that Lori Shaw and the City of Salem and I have started back in 2010 when Lori really reached out to us and kind of offered an opportunity for us to do some community service type work. And that's what I was looking for my AVID class. And it has really just grown and blossomed from there. So originally it was specifically just for community service, but for those of you that know Lori, she's a very determined and very strong woman, and she knows she has a great vision for what she wants, and she knows how to go about to do it. And she's just done an incredible job empowering 16 and 17-year-olds to do a lot of things that I as an adult have not done. So just really, really feel blessed to have this partnership with her. Through this partnership, my students have been afforded the opportunity to learn about community issues and needs. Our students have met with prominent community partners to discuss these issues and problem solve ways to meet those needs. They have unanimously dedicated themselves to become part of the ongoing solution in order to provide a better community for all of us to live in. As a teacher, I have been able to incorporate the curriculum into this program by working on public speaking skills and professional writing opportunities. I have also had the opportunity to watch students' organizational and writing skills improve through their formal letters of request for donations, formal updates on the drive's success, and thank you letters to donors and business partners. As a result of this work and the relationships that they have built, I have seen their self-confidence grow exponentially. Rarely is there a moment more satisfying for a teacher than this.
Hi there, I'm Patrick Williams. I'd like to introduce Michelle Bravo and Elizabeth Fiesick. We're in Ms. Edwards' Avid class. Actually, this is our second year doing this project. Our first year was actually called the 100 Souls, and that was our original goal. And we kind of surpassed that by about 400 pairs of shoes our first year. That was kind of a big deal to us. And our first year, we actually only had a couple months to prepare for this. And we organized different groups to design like what our shirts would be our first year, like how would we actually talk to businesses, and how would you even collect the shoes. And our second year, we've had about 6 or 7 months to work on this, so we're a little bit more organized, and we've been able to branch out to more businesses than we did the year before, and it's been a great experience.
Okay, so as Patrick said, we started a little bit earlier this year so we can plan ahead. And we launched our shoe drive at the Riverfront Park on the holiday tree lighting. We passed out cocoa, we passed out cookies, and we passed out candy canes and talked to the people who were there, which were mostly families, and kind of talked about our project and what it was about and what they can do to help. We'd also like to thank Mayor Peterson for announcing our project that night.
So before Patrick and everyone else had talked about partnerships that we have made with businesses in the Salem-Keizer area, and how community people have just reached out to help donate to our project. And ways we reached out to businesses to ask for help was to ask for posters to be put up in their businesses, or to host a bin so we could collect shoes from people that would come into the business, or to have a donation jar at their counter to collect money that we could eventually put towards buying kids new pairs of shoes. Or we also came up with the idea of bus passes for teenagers so they don't have to walk around town everywhere. And then this year we are having a booth at the Country Kids Relay to help promote our project, and we plan to make that a tradition year-round now. And they are going to have an ad that we put together at the event, and I think we have the ad here to show you guys.
Thank you very much. You know, we are the collaboration capital, and this is collaboration in action. I just feel so proud of every one of you for working on this, for your dedication and your loyalty to the kids in this community. Thank you very much. Now, you have a video you're going to show, or the ad? Okay, great. We'll run that, and then.
1,000 souls. 1,000 souls. 1,000 souls. 1,000 souls. Imagine only owning one pair of tattered shoes.
Keeping them together with duct tape and walking everywhere in them. For many local youth, this is a reality.
Be sure to drop off your newer tattered shoes under certain kinds of locations.
Bring shoes next year to our booth at the Country Kids Relay.
We were warned ahead of time there might be
That's great. Thank you. All right, we do have special certificates for Melinda and for Lori because we are so proud of what you have done. City Manager Linda Norris would like to present those to you, and you would like to say a few words?
I would. You know, we have such great employees working for the city, and there are two of them standing right here. They really took the needs in the community and figured out how to work together with their two programs and these wonderful students that you saw here today to do something really terrific for this community. So we just wanted to give you a special recognition for your work.
City Stream.
1,100 pairs of shoes. And how much in $700 in donations, 1,100 pair of shoes. Congratulations, ladies. Congratulations very much. All right, that makes you feel good about the future. It makes me feel good about the future, that's for sure. Okay, we have public comment, and I'm not sure if anyone is signed up because here comes the city attorney. He's got the list. Here we go. We do have one person, Sandra Burnett, has signed up to testify. And this is public comment on items other than the public hearing items, but an item that is on the agenda. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. It's Sandra Burnett, 600 Mission Street, Ward 2, speaking for the Salem Art Association and the project to install an elevator to access the first floor galleries, and part of the project is to upgrade the annex to get better functionality out of it. What I just want to reiterate quickly this evening is that we're not asking for approval tonight. We're just asking for this to be allowed to go forward to the Historic Landmarks Commission for their comment. And then after that point, there'll be time to really scrutinize it and scrutinize all the issues relating to it. So just to be real clear, tonight is just a matter of getting it to be able to move forward to Historic Landmarks and then to take their comments into consideration. The two goals here, one is to make the upstairs gallery, which is our primary educational interpretive space, accessible, ADA compliant. And the other part of the project is to expand our use of the annex, which at the moment is not very useful and can be so by interleading it and restructuring it on the inside. So this is the project. We are responsible for raising the funds for the project. The contract has been drawn up with the city, a new contract, and we're responsible for the maintenance contract of it. And this is all in our new contract with the city. It'll be in there. The project will not begin until all the funds are secured. There's a pledge already for $60,000. But that pledge will be handed over at the point that the funding for the totalities has been achieved.
All right.
So that's just wanted to be clear on those points. If there are any questions, I'm happy to address
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Burnett? Yes, Councillor Clem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sandra, thanks for coming down. The annex upstairs, is that ADA accessible at all now, or?
No, it's a kind of mezzanine. It's very small.
Okay.
We would
Right.
like to make use of that space, but it's open and it's not usable at the moment, but it won't be ADA accessible.
And once the elevator, if the elevator goes in, then it will be?
There will be 3 small stairs, so it'll be accessible for limited mobility.
Okay. All right,
As well.
thank you.
Other questions, comments? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming tonight. All right. Councillor Bennett, would you like to introduce the consent calendar?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I move the consent calendar, noting that Councillor Tessler declares a conflict of interest due to her employment on 3.2C and will not be voting on that item. And that's it.
All right, it's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Dickey. Thank you. To move the consent calendar as presented with the notation that Councillor Tessler will not be voting on item 3.2C due to a conflict because of her employment. All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye. 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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. You know, I will say, as I went through the agenda and my council notebook over the weekend, it occurred to me that the theme of tonight's meeting could also be called Partnership in Action, and you'll note several items in here where we have intergovernmental agreements with cities and counties and other agencies, and I think that really does speak to the fact that this city does try hard to stretch the public dollars and stretch the relationships across the community where we can be collaborative with others and thereby really enhancing the work that everyone's getting done and at a reduced price. So I'm very pleased to see all of those items that our city manager placed on the agenda. Okay, we're going to begin public hearings.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I failed to mention that Councillor Tessler, I noticed she was quiet as we voted on item K, 3.23, 2K. She also has an employment conflict there and wanted me to be sure to note she did not vote on that item as well.
Which item was that, please?
3.2K.
3.2.
3.3K.
K.
3.3K. 3.3K, I'm sorry.
We're at 10K.
All right.
Thank you.
Do we, as a point of order, do we need to re-vote for that or simply note the exception?
It's just fascinating.
All right, so the city recorder notes the exception. We're rolling right along.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tessler, glad to have you employed. Glad to have you. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay. All right. Public hearings. Now we have 3 items actually this evening. You have a list of people who are going to be testifying, and we have a city recorder that will introduce the public hearings.
Yes, Mayor. The first thing we would do is open the public hearing for the appeal or the council review of the council conditional use site plan review number 13-01.
Okay, would the recorder please introduce item 4A, please?
The Salem City Council will now hold a public hearing for the purpose of considering review of specific conditional use site plan review number 1301 for property located at 1865 Commercial Street Northeast. This will be a new hearing and will result in a decision that supersedes that rendered by the hearings officer. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward applicable criteria found in Salem Revised Code chapters 117, 118, and 163. Testimony may also address any other criteria a person believes applies to the decision. The record of the hearings officer action with respect to this request is part of the record before council. Failure to raise an issue in the hearing in person or by letter, or failure to provide statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court.
Councillor Bennett, do you have a motion?
I do, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I move the council continue the hearing on specific conditional use site plan review number 1301 until May 28th, 2013.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Nanke to move for a motion for continuance to May 28th. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. 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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Would the recorder please introduce item 4B, please?
The Salem City Council will now hold a public hearing to receive testimony on the 2013-2014 Housing and Community Development Annual Action Plan.
Thank you. I see that we have one person who has signed up to testify this evening, and it looks like Sari Johnson. I'm probably not saying that correctly.
And I believe we have a staff report
Oh, I'm
first, Mayor.
sorry.
That's all right.
Staff report first.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Thanks.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Rena Peck. I'm the Federal Programs Manager for Urban Development. I would like to introduce into the record this evening the staff report and a comment letter that we received regarding the annual plan and also its staff response. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is to discuss the 2013-2014 Annual Action Plan, which is an implementation strategy. The annual plan represents a comprehensive approach to addressing homelessness, economic development, affordable housing, and neighborhood revitalization during the periods July 1, 2013 through June 30th, 2014. The annual plan guides the allocation of federal community development block grant and home investment partnership funds to implement the specific priorities outlined in the 2009-2014 consolidated plan. 3 plans guide the creation of the annual plan and helps the Housing and Urban Development Advisory Committee and the Social Services Advisory Committee propose funding allocations. These plans include the 5-year consolidated plan, which sets forth federal funding priorities as a condition of receiving CDBG Community Development Block Grant or Home Investment Partnership Funds. The 10-year plan to end homelessness establishes goals, defines strategies, and identifies partnerships to effectively reduce homelessness. And the Continuum of Care Plan, which guides the McKinney-Vento federal funding for emergency and transitional housing with services. This year, the staff anticipates receiving approximately $1.1 million in CDBG and $570,000 in home. Every year in November, the application cycle begins and organizations are encouraged to apply. Once the applications are received, the Housing and Urban Development Advisory Committee reviews the applications and their alignment and goals with the consolidated plan. The application cycle has closed, and HUDAC and the Urban Development Director are recommending the proposed projects outlined in this plan and the reports presented to you by approval from this public hearing. As congressional budgets continue to be reduced, the city can expect to see the amount of CDBG and home dwindle over the years. The 2013 and 2014 year's allocation has been reduced by 5%, due in part to sequestration and no passage of the federal budget. As you can see, the city is oversubscribed in CDBG, and home did not receive as many requests as in the past. The unallocated portion of home funds will be set aside for housing projects in 2013 and 2014 program year. The annual plan proposed projects range in funding for small businesses through microenterprise education, providing jobs to individuals with developmental disabilities, direct services to low to moderate income individuals and families, and providing decent and safe sanitary housing. It is anticipated the proposed projects will provide various types of assistance to approximately 3,349 individuals and families within Salem and Kaiser. This is an increase of 204 individuals from last year. The Social Service Advisory Board has made social service funding recommendations to Council through the regular budget process. Though it's not a requirement of the annual plan that these funds be provided in this report, we believe that it's important that this information is provided to you to show the city's investment. Social service funds provides a safety net, emergency services to homeless and those at risk of homelessness. The programs proposed to be funded with the social service dollars are mentioned in the plan and leveraged against the CDBG grant. The Social Service Advisory Board funding recommendations are based on these priorities. These programs will provide the majority of services to individuals who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. 8,558 residents are expected to be served through these programs, or excuse me, 80,000. Prior to the public hearing, a comment period was noticed and was published to inform citizens of Salem and Kaiser that the city is soliciting comments on the annual action plan. As of today, the city did receive one comment, and the comment along with the staff response has been provided to you. The comments and responses will also be included in the final publication and submission of the 2013-2014 annual plan to HUD. This includes the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we do have a person to testify. Ms. Johnson, would you like to approach the podium? And you'll have 3 minutes. At the end of the first two, the amber light comes on, and at the end of 3 minutes, the red light comes on.
Thank you.
Thank you, and just state your name and address.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Sarai Johnson. My address is 2700 Market Street Northeast here in Salem. I'm here to represent NEDCO, Neighborhood Economic Development Corporation. We have been in operation since 1979 and here in Salem since 2008, so for about 5.5 years. We provide asset building, education, community economic development, and access to resources to help low-income people move out of poverty and into self-sufficiency. And I wanted to come here tonight to encourage the City Council and the City of Salem to adopt a broad-based asset building agenda for the strategies to address homelessness and affordable housing and community development, as well as neighborhood revitalization. Asset building strategies focus on financial stability for low-income people and really work to help them to set and reach financial goals through education, coaching, and access to financial resources. This is something that can help people of all incomes, financial literacy and asset building, but especially is impactful to people who are very low income and who have limited resources. I've seen people come through asset building programs who have been on Section 8 housing vouchers but have been able, through education and coaching and savings, to purchase a home and move off of the voucher system. And I've seen people who have been homeless be able to purchase a home over time in working with some of our counselors. And personally, as a former financial counselor myself, I've sat with hundreds of people to help them do something so simple as just creating a budget for their household that's realistic to help them live within their means and help them to understand their relationship with money. The reason why I think that Salem would be wise to invest in this kind of strategy is because Salem, based on widely acknowledged measures of financial stability, has some major challenges right now. For instance, 2 in 5 households earn less than $35,000 here in Salem, while $41,000 is what I'm sorry, I forgot their name. Somebody that does a study for self-sufficiency wage in Oregon, in Salem. And the self-sufficiency wage is based on the ability to pay for decent housing, reliable transportation, food, and childcare for a small family. Homeownership rates in Salem are 5 points lower than Oregon, as well as 10 points lower than the national rate, which is dire for the tax base and also for neighborhood investment. I encourage the city to stand with us with investing in people and helping them to build assets so that they can have a financially strong future and reach self-sufficiency and decrease their reliance on emergency services over time. Thank you again.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Johnson? Councilor Tesler, could you come back?
I have a comment for staff. I'm sorry.
Oh, for staff. All right. For council. All right. Yes. All right. Councilor Clausen.
Sorry to have you stand up and sit down and stand
No, that's
back
all
up.
right. I should have said.
I just wanted to be clear. So were you proposing that we'd make some sort of a change to the plan, or were you saying it's good as is?
I am not proposing that you change the current plan, but I am proposing that you consider additional strategies in the future plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Ms. Peck, I believe there's a question. Councilor Tesler, did you have a question for staff?
Yes, I did. Well, first of all, I had a couple of comments. First of all, in looking through this handout for, this is a letter to Mr. Stuckey and Mr. Fisher, and you've outlined some changes that you've made in the process. I really, really like this change about the presentations, that you've invited people to give formal presentations. I think that when you have a lot of applications, it tends to get pretty dry. And when you have somebody come in and give a formal presentation and show slides and answer questions, that really adds like a richness and a good dialogue to the process so that everybody can feel like they've got their questions answered. So I wanted to commend you for that. I also really like that you really went out there and did a lot of outreach. And you talked to a lot of people about this program because, you know, I used to see, you know, maybe 1 or 2 people. And, you know, it's not hard to give first, second, and third prize at the dog show when you have 3 entries. So, you know, it's really nice to see a whole bunch of people come in, so you have a selection, so you have competition, and you can see the full, and invite people that are new and who have different ideas. And not that these other people aren't doing a good job, but I really like that. And this, what this person just talked about, the asset building strategies, is that something that you're working on, that you plan to incorporate? Is that something we can do? Certainly makes sense.
John Wales, Urban Development Department. That's something we'd be happy to take a look at. As probably most of you know, our consolidated, 5-year consolidated plan will be up for renewal. We'll be starting working on it, I think, next year?
Next year.
14. So that would be the time that we would embrace, and we'll be having a lot of public input into that, and those kinds of comments would be something that I think we should very much be interested in. Rena, you may have some comments about what we're already doing.
Yeah, we will make sure that NEDCO is included in our analysis for our 5-year consolidated plan. We're always looking and being connected with the real estate market and the, you know, of course, the rental housing market and those types of things. So we're always every year, doing it throughout the year, trying to stay in touch with things like that that are happening in Salem, so that when we come up upon the annual plan process, we're making sure that all that's incorporated.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Great. Councillor Clem.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Beck, the slide where we talk about home funds, how much money we have and how much or we could be allocated from the federal government and how much we're spending. I thought I saw that not all of, we didn't have enough applications to spend the money. Is that correct? Is that where this dollar value mentioned in the letter to the CDC
Right, the 400
fills out the rest of it?
Yeah, the 451 is currently set aside, so that's the amount of money that wasn't allocated through the home program for various reasons. Well, we just didn't receive enough applications. And so that money is currently set aside for any organization that wants to come and apply for it. But we've also talked with Salem Kaiser CDC, and they're aware that it's there. So once they meet all of the criteria, that's available to them for that project.
Can that fund, can those funds be used for any other organizations providing assistance to homeless individuals?
As long as it's for affordable housing, home funds can only be used towards either direct services for housing or actually for acquisition or rehabilitation of a facility.
Okay. It's not direct. We can't use it directly.
We can use it
assist.
for some direct aid. So a couple of the organizations that applied or the applications that are submitted are for like housing assistance, monthly rent, utilities, that type of stuff. So we can provide direct services that way, or just through reducing the costs for organizations when they acquire property or rehab it, so that they don't have to charge as much rent. Does that?
I've got other questions, but I'll wait till later.
Okay.
All right, other questions of staff? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll now close the hearing. And Councillor Bennett, do you have a motion?
I do, Madam Mayor. I move the City Council adopt the 2013-14 Housing and Community Development Annual Action Plan and direct staff to submit it to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development prior to May 15, 2013.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Tessler to move staff recommendation. Is there discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, now we come to the public hearing on the river crossing, and we do have a few people signed up. I want to ask a point of order of our city attorney. I believe last time we had the public hearing and we held it open, but did we require that anyone who had already testified at that hearing would not be able to testify tonight?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. So just want to remind people, if you remember testifying in the past 2 weeks ago, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. Please refrain tonight from doing so. All right, we have a staff report to start with, and Peter Fernandez is at the microphone, so I think it's up to him. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Julie Warnicki testified last time, so it's so we're following the rules at staff as well.
Sneaky.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Peter Fernandez, Public Works Director. What I want to do tonight is just very briefly go over a couple of points that I think are important to clarify a few things for the council and the community so that we have a productive hearing tonight. I want to talk a little bit about why the council's having the public hearing. We've talked about this before. I want to talk about that again. I want to talk about clarifying the council-endorsed alternative elements, and this is what the council endorsed on April 8th after our 4 work sessions. And we want to start calling that, you'll see it here in my presentation, we're going to start calling that the Salem alternative because it really is not 4D, it's not 4D modified, it's not 4D minus. It really is its own alternative, and it's important to recognize it for what it is. So you'll see it here called the Salem alternative. And then what it means to the community and a couple of closing thoughts that I have on the alternative. Julie went over this last time, we've been over this before, and I just really want to re-emphasize that we are in the middle of the environmental impact statement process for this project. This is a federally mandated process by the National Environmental Protection Act. We started undertaking this process 6 years ago, as it is well understood by the community. And the point in the process where we are at is that the draft environmental impact statement has been published and has been provided to the community for comment. What council is being asked to do is to comment on the proposal. The recommendation from the draft environmental impact statement is alternative 4D. Council has worked through a number of issues and has what we now call, what I will now begin to call the Salem alternative. But it's important to understand that council, when you make a decision at this point, you are not building a bridge, you are not approving a bridge, you are not approving funding for a bridge. What you are doing is providing input back into the draft environmental impact statement. Once that is done, since the proposal as it stands today will be significantly different from the recommendation, the staff working on that, which are a combination of Oregon Department of Transportation staff, their consultants, and some of our staff, they will do the analysis, they will provide that feedback, the results of the analysis back to Federal Highway Administration, who will publish a final environmental impact statement. Prior to that publication, there will be a number of opportunities for the community to provide input directly to the Federal Highway Administration, and the council will have an opportunity to provide input back in the way of amending the Salem Transportation System Plan. So whatever the final environmental impact statement is, if the council agrees with the final recommendation, then we will first have to amend our transportation system plans before a final record of decision is issued. Once that record of decision is issued, what we will have then is license to build that facility. With that license, we can then begin to seek funding. Once we have the funding, we will then begin our final design, our right-of-way acquisition, and then construction of the various components. So we are, as Winston Churchill says, and I love this quote, we are coming to the end of the beginning, but we are not at the end. We're not even at the beginning of the end. Okay? So I just wanted to clarify that point. The other thing that I want to clarify is what is the Salem alternative? What you see on the left is an infamous map of alternative 4D. As we know, the blue are structures or proposed structures, and the gray are the recommended surface street improvements, and those are the ultimate rights of way that would be necessary. The city and the state already own a lot of these rights of way, especially along Salem Parkway, but there would be new projects built with this, particularly the viaduct along the proposed Marine Drive infrastructure, and then the Marine Drive Street, and then the realignment of Orchard Heights. What you see on the right is the result is our cartoon of summarizing what the Salem alternative is. So this was what council has endorsed, what you endorsed on April 8th, and what is the topic really of the public hearing, which is response to the Salem alternative, because this public hearing is about providing input, obtaining input from the community on your alternative that we want to provide back to the EIS process. So I just want to take a minute. I know it's difficult. I think it's been difficult to understand. I've understood it's difficult to understand our cartoon. So I just want to go through a little bit and just touch on each of the 4 elements that the council endorsed Salem alternative includes. The first issue is that council wants to minimize the piers in the water of the new bridge and wants to make the bridge more of a signature bridge. Council also wants to assure that bicycle and pedestrian facilities are included in the bridge. By having the input that you want to minimize or eliminate the piers in the water, that really dictates a signature bridge. So it's really a form follows function kind of situation. What I've summarized for you there on the top left is that to be able to cross the entire span of the river, which is about 900 feet, we would need to go with some kind of either arch or cable stayed structure. And what I'll have, and I've sprinkled the presentation with a couple of things, because there's a whole separate presentation on this. But you can see to span 900 feet, we would need either an arch, a concrete box girder, which would look more like a standard bridge, but to make that signature, we would be able to do some decoration on the handrails, like you see on the Columbia Gorge, like you see in other places. Or if we wanted to really minimize piers, even in some of the floodplain, then you'd see it more of a cable stayed. And you see that that picture on the top right there. You could envision that that tower would be on McLean Island, and the bridge would be held up from both sides, or it could be on any one of the sides, and you'll see some other examples, and then you see more of an arch design. Again, you could see that middle support on the island and then the 2 arches. The second issue, and this is a very critical issue, and why really we can't call it 4D anymore, is that the council endorsed the idea that the viaduct would no longer be supported. So what we'll have is the removal of West Salem Viaduct, and in fact that the improvements in West Salem east of Wallace Road would also be eliminated. So I'm using this photograph here, which is the from the EIS. So this piece right here, which is the viaduct, the council endorsed Salem alternative is that that piece would be removed from Glen Creek Road all the way to the bridge, and that this realignment of Orchard Heights Road would also be eliminated. So you would not see this, you would not see this, you would not see this, and you would not see Marine Drive north of, because north is towards us in this picture, north of Riverbend Road. So it's important to note that issue number 2 is removal of the West Salem Viaduct and removal of surface street improvements in West Salem that are not already in the Salem Transportation System Plan. So what remains would be projects that are already adopted in our plan. So I wanted to show you what this would look like, and I used the term cartoon, so here's a cartoon right here. This is the cross section for Marine Drive. It would have 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction, a turn lane, and it's a little different from this. I didn't draw this, but it would have bike lanes on both sides and possibly a walkway, a sidewalk, a 5-foot sidewalk on one side, and possibly an expanded multi-purpose path on the east side is something that we have talked about in the past. And then I wanted to show this picture from the EIS to show you that as this, and this is not the way the bridge would be designed once the viaduct is gone. It would be more of a straightforward alignment, but it would come to a major intersection here, and this is Marine Drive, and you see that we would possibly have widenings at the intersection, for left turn lanes and possibly right turn lanes, but then it would immediately come back to a 3-lane facility north and south of the intersection. So that's a very important component and something that needs to be understood, that the viaduct is no longer part of what we are recommending, or what the council is looking at. It's important to note, and this is a very important, something that we heard a lot from the community, something that the council felt was very important, and that is that we minimize the impacts to Pioneer Village and to Wallace Marine Park. Here again, here you see Pioneer Village. This facility right now would not be up in the air. This facility would be on the ground, and this is where Marine Drive is scheduled to go through, and this is a plan that we've had, the transportation plan, for a number of years. There's already funding in the bond, in the current bond, to build up to $3.8 million worth of Marine Drive. So this is already here. Okay. It's also important to note that with the Salem alternative, no existing residential properties will be affected, will be removed as part of this project, on the east or the west side of the project. Issue number 3 was the impacts to Edgewater Street. Council was very concerned about the impacts to the green belt along Edgewater. Again, this is from the environmental impact statement, and it shows that in alternate 4D, all of these properties along the south side of Edgewater would be removed up to the historic City Hall would remain. So council wants to minimize those impacts, and then council also wants to have Oregon 22 improvements serve West Salem residents. 4D does not provide access to Highway 22 for West Salem residents beyond the existing Rosemont interchange. So if you get on here on Rosemont, you would have to get on these bridges. You would not be able to access the backside of the courthouse and the backdoor Roths and the like. With the Salem alternative, you see here I put 2 pictures together to show you a little bit. So here's the viaduct that we are no longer supporting. So this would be a surface street. This is Marine Drive. This is Glen Creek Road. There would be a signal here. Then the ramps, there would be a ramp to start here to access Highway 22 or to come off of Highway 22. And then in order to be able to minimize the impacts to Edgewater Street and for the residents of Southwest West Salem to be able to use this facility, the interchange at Rosemont has to move to Eola Drive. That makes a lot of sense to the city of Salem. Eola Drive is our minor arterial that serves that part of West Salem. Rosemont is a collector road, so that is an old design, and it really makes a lot more sense from our own transportation system plan to have that interchange moved. With the movement of that interchange, then these ramps no longer have to be in this configuration. This can be a narrower cross-section, and the ability for West Salem residents to be able to get on at Eola and be able to come off here and use downtown West, what we call downtown West Salem, without having to traverse through this neighborhood, becomes possible. Issue 4 is the Bridgehead Area Planning Study. The council, in its endorsement of the Salem alternative, has made it clear that there needs to be very specific studies on both sides of the bridgehead to see what we can do with the coming of that bridge to encourage economic development and residential revitalization. So we have noted that. The EIS will address some of that, but it's clear that more work will be done and more specific work will be done to encourage that as part of the bridge construction. Okay, a few things to remember, and here come some of the pictures of other bridges for you to enjoy. This one's actually in kind of a rural area in Kentucky, so you can see that we can do some beautiful things here. The first thing that's most important is project severability. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of concern in the community about the cost. Alternative 4D has an estimated cost of $720 million. That is for everything. So everything that you see, the blue and the gray, all of that is $720 million. In the Salem alternative, you can really begin to think of it as several different components that we will have licensed to build. Some of those components will be under construction already. We already have funding for that, and Marine Drive is the example. We will begin construction of Marine Drive within the next few years. Highway 22 improvements, that ramp off of Glen Creek, that movement of Yellow Drive can be done independent of whether a bridge is built or not. That's a good project in and of itself. It just so happens that those ramps then provide access over to the new bridge from Highway 22. So they can all be done separately. There's been a lot of questions about, well, so how much is the Salem alternative going to cost? I don't have the answer for that. I can't tell you how much we're going to save and then how much we're putting in. Yes, we're saving a significant amount of money by eliminating the viaduct. We are saving a significant amount of money by removing a lot of the surface street realignments in West Salem, but we are adding costs because we want a nicer looking bridge. You know, Alternative 4D provides us with the least expensive alternative. Our community, as a resident of the community, as your Public Works Director, we deserve something that looks better, such as this. That adds costs, however. So nice things cost more money. We are moving an interchange from Rosemont to Eola. That will add costs. So we will save some costs, we will add some costs. That is what the final EIS will tell us. When we input back into the EIS process, then that part of that process will be to recalculate everything and come back with a cost that, again, can be severable. Traffic congestion. Alternative 4D is absolutely the best alternative to address all the traffic congestion issues in this part of the community for the next 20 or 30 years. There is no question about it. A lot of what was proposed with all those viaducts was specifically to address volume to capacity ratios and to provide the community with the best level of service for the transportation system. We are a community that is used to not accepting the best possible improvement for congestion. Salem Parkway was going to be a freeway, an elevated freeway. We made the choice years ago to not do that. We accepted a little more congestion because we did not want, similar to the viaduct that was proposed in West Salem, coming through Liberty Commercial and through our downtown. This is no different. But yes, there will be more congestion. We are making a choice that we will accept more congestion for a little more livability, for significantly more livability, perhaps. Okay, what do we get from the Salem alternative? The first thing that we get is we get crossing redundancy. We've talked about this. We only have one set of bridges, one in each direction. They are not up to seismic standards. They congest easily. We've all lived through, you know, certain individuals using the bridge for certain things where the whole community had to be shut down as we waited for it. If there's an accident, we back it up all over town. And it also creates system connectivity. What we have today, it's very simple to envision. We have a funnel from all of West Salem that goes to one point, and we have a funnel the other way to try and cross. What this new crossing does is provide not only redundancy, but system connectivity. And it does help transit, and it does help bicycle facilities. You can well imagine that transit would now be able to run buses from their new, beautiful transit, Kaiser Transit Center, to the corner of Dokes Ferry and Brush College without having to come to downtown. So I would imagine that many new routes would be created with this facility. It also provides these improvements to Highway 22, specifically for the use of West Salem residents. And I can't emphasize enough that the facility that we have today, when you get on at Rosemont, your only option for that freeway is to come to downtown Salem. With these new facilities, those folks that live out on Eola would be able to use Highway 22 to go to downtown West Salem. Or if they want to go to the northern parts of, the northeastern parts of West Salem or to Northeast Salem, then they have an easier way to go to the Kroc Center, for example. They'd have an easier way to go than going through downtown Salem. There's also a significant improvement in safety because we would be eliminating the left-hand merges that are an old and antiquated 1950s design that we have out there. So all the merges, true to modern standards, for freeways would be on the right-hand side with these new facilities at Rosemont, with the new improvements to Highway 22. And it eliminates the 4D impacts to sensitive land uses like Pioneer Village, like Wallace Marine Park, and the others. So there are significant improvements to be had with the Salem alternative, and it's important to point them out. We also get a very clear discussion and planning for the economic development potential for both sides of the river. We alleviate downtown gridlock. There would now be another way to get across the river, and we do the proper planning for the future. Our transportation, you can see there, I put a copy of the SCATS plans. That's a plan out to 2035. We're not planning for next week or next year or 2 years from now. We are planning for the very, very long term, as our transportation system plan does, as the regional transportation plan does. So there are a number of benefits here. I think that's my last slide that I wanted to go over, and I really want to emphasize that and encourage the folks that are here to speak to the Salem alternative, because that is really, and that's why the council endorsed it on April 8th, was to put that out to the community to say, tell us what you think of the changes that we have proposed, not 4D. 4D is no longer an option for this council, because you've endorsed, unless you change your mind, but what you've endorsed is the Salem alternative, and that's what we are hoping to input back into the EIS process. So with that, Mayor, I look forward to a great evening of testimony.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Fernandez. And we do have a great evening of testimony coming up. We have almost 3 full pages. So what I'm going to ask is if people would be sort of willing to be on deck, and we'll try to use both microphones, both sides of the room, and I'll call a couple names at a time so you'll know who's up and who's next. All of the testimony tonight, 3 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, the amber light comes on. At the end of the 3 minutes, the red light comes on. And then we will ask counselors if they have questions of you. So that's kind of the way the order goes. The first person on the list, Kenji Sukahara. And following him, Carl Harbaugh, and then Teresa Moore. Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of council, my name is Kenji Sugahara, 1730 Misty Place Northwest. I'm actually appearing here as the chair of the West Salem Neighborhood Association, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. To start off, I'd like to thank everyone here that is participating in the process, and I'd actually like to recognize 2 folks. Those are Jason Brandt and Scott Bassett. Both have been absolutely amazing people on both sides of the issue, and thank you for being there. What's most important to us all is that we all want to see the same thing, a vibrant Salem where our community and businesses thrive. Though we may stand on opposing sides of the proposed bridge, we stand together in our love for the city. West Salem is 1/6 of the population of Salem. We are 1/3 of the population of Polk County. West Salem is my neighborhood. I take my kids to Orchard Heights Park. My daughter loves to go down to family night at Baskin Robbins. We shop at Ross. I ride my bike all around West Salem. We consider West Salem to be our home. I want to make sure that West Salem continues to be a place where we want to live, not just have to live. Neighborhood associations give Salem residents a voice in the workings and development of their local community and the city as a whole. West Salem is among 7 neighborhood associations that have voted, or that have considered the staff recommendations, and all 7 have voted against it. The vote in West Salem was 28 in favor of the resolution, 4 against, and 2 abstaining. I'll read the resolution. Whereas the Salem River Crossing planning project was launched in 2006 with a budget of $2 million to locate and provide a funding plan for a new bridge in Salem. And whereas the SRC is paying consultants $7.8 million for planning projects extending into a 7th year, and whereas the SRC has been able to identify 9 potential options but no funding plan to present to local governments, and whereas past bridge studies considered locations including Pine Street concluded estimated costs far in excess of available funds, and capacity limitations of the budding signalized intersections cause traffic congestions on the bridges. And whereas the SRC Citizen Task Force that worked for 6 years, it did not reach a majority decision to recommend any of the 9 options, and whereas the April 8th, 2013 and April 22nd, 2013 staff reports to the Salem City Council do not recommend any of the 9 options, and instead recommends a new option that does not address any stated objective, does not include a cost estimate or funding plan, and has not been subject to scrutiny by the project consultants, the project task force, the project oversight team, and Whereas the ongoing cost to continue work on the SRC costs average $100,000 per month that is needed for other important transportation projects. Therefore, be it resolved that the West Salem Neighborhood Association recommends that the Salem City Council, other local government entities such as the Salem-Kaiser Area Transportation Study, along with the Oregon Department of Transportation, stop all work on planning for a third bridge in Salem and immediately turn to locating funding to retrofit the existing bridges so they are operational after a major earthquake, and focus future transportation efforts on improving the capacity of the existing bridges and pursuing low-cost and no-cost ways to reduce car commuting during peak hours. We should be looking at a bridge as a last resort. It's important to be conservative on something so expensive. Let's try cheaper things first. Let's just see if they work. Maybe they won't, but let's try them first. Let's find solutions that unite us all, one that we can all get behind: the neighborhood associations, the residents, the chamber, the MPBIA, the business associations, the counties, and the state. Consensus is hard, but we can do it. Perhaps some other options need to be revisited. Many people talk about vision in the future. I only have one vision, and that's one where Salem is somewhere that people love and want to be. A city where our kids will say, "I'm glad my parents made Salem so great." One where talk of so lame is long forgotten. A place where people don't just live, but a place where people work and have good paying jobs. A city with a vibrant downtown where people enjoy strolling through our tree-lined streets. A place where our kids want to stay, have kids, and grow old. That's my vision of Salem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Mr. Sugihara? None. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Appreciate your testimony. Carl Harbaugh, and then Teresa Moore.
Yeah, my name is Carl Harbaugh, and I own a business at 2324 12th Street here in Salem called Southtown Glass. And I'm trying to be unbiased as much as I possibly can, because I feel like we predetermine our minds and don't make the right decisions because we've got something set in our mind. And I think differently than most. I've had some life-threatening things to me happen, and I think differently than most do. So I'm kind of trying to reconcile what's happening here and try to figure out a way to solve it. It sounds like a lot of that has already been solved. The presentation that we just received really, I think, hit and addressed. I sat on this side of the room and listened to as many people as I possibly could and understand their concerns, and I agree with them. I would like to do a lot of the things that they want to do, and I want to do a lot of things that the other side of this room want to do. But I think we're coming to the middle of this thing, and the one thing that I personally feel real strong about, I recently fought over a situation where there was going to be a rock pit, and I've had a lot of presentation and listened to a lot of testimony about the adverse effects of that. And it was extremely unbelievable for me to understand how much a source of transportation slowing down and impeding traffic and holding it, what that does to the health of people in that area. The overflow, they did a demonstration, they brought a special environmentalist in and did this demonstration and showed the effects, and then they gave us statistics of, like, I think it was like 75 to 80% of the people in those areas are more likely to get cancer than and it's just staggering. For that reason alone, we really need to find a way to get traffic around and through Salem so that we can have a more livable city to live in. I want to live here the rest of my life. I consider Salem as somewhat of a sanctuary. It's a place where you don't find any place that I can think of, or in the environment and Oregon and all this that we have. And so we got to work together and find a solution. So my vote is for something that's similar to what we've just proposed. Maybe we'll find an alternative that's a little bit better, but we both need to look at it both ways.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Mr. Harbaugh?
I do.
No, I'm sorry. Only from counselors, sorry. Okay. Thank you so much. Teresa Moore and then Lee Moore. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and City Councilors, for listening to testimony regarding a third bridge, Salem alternative. My name is Teresa Moore, and I'm a resident of Ward 1 and have property in South Salem. My address is 465 Cameo Street, West Salem. My neighbors at Pioneer Village and I don't want to see, hear, or smell traffic from any type of roadway that would be called Marine Drive, and we are asking you to not spend money on this. I don't want to see any more money spent on studies, drafts, reviews, or any other clever word that is used to describe the Salem alternative. I want the money's approximately $100,000 per month to be used towards fixing conditions that slow down the traffic. Get rid of the traffic lights at the bottom of the Center Street off-ramp. Stop creating a crosswalk there. Do spend money on creating an off-ramp similar to the southbound off-ramp on Center Street Bridge. Do spend money on coordinating the timings of traffic signals so that the traffic flows and doesn't stop unless cross traffic is present. There is nothing more frustrating and lacking of common sense than to have traffic stopped and no pedestrians or cross traffic cars are present. Some say that traffic is congested on the bridges. I disagree with that study. For approximately 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon, traffic is heavy enough to come to a standstill. That means for 23 hours a day, Monday through Friday, traffic is fine. On days when county and state workers are on furlough days, traffic is free flowing. On Saturday and Sunday, traffic is free flowing. The traffic, when it is heavy, is no worse than Lancaster Drive or Highway 22 and Mission Street at their heavy traffic use times. Currently, my property tax statement is covering Chemeketa Community College, Willamette ESD, Salem School District, Polk County, Chemeketa Regional Library, Salem City, Salem Urban Renewal Special Levy, Salem Urban Renewal Agency, Polk Soil Water, Salem Mass Transit, 4-H, Garden, Ag, and Forest Extension District, Polk County bonds after 2001, Chemeketa Community College bonds prior to 2001 and after 2001, Salem City bonds after 2001, Salem School District bonds prior to 2001, Salem School District bonds after 2001. I don't need any more monies added to my property tax. So the no build is the cheapest and the most cost saving for everybody in the city of Salem and Turner and Marion County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Ms. Moore? All right, thank you. We appreciate your testimony. Lee Moore. And following him will be Madeline Noel, maybe if I have that right, and then Nicholas Williams. Welcome.
Lee Moore, 1132 Liberty Circle South. I'm in Ward 7. My biggest issue with this is the funding of it. We seem like we avoid even talking about strategies for how to fund it. There's talk of perhaps a bond measure. Do you really think people in Turner, Oregon are going to vote yes to add $200 to $400 to their tax bill every year for bonding? I don't think so. I don't know how it happened so quickly, but I am now the proverbial senior on a fixed income. I don't want to really pay another $200 to $400 every year the rest of my life for a bridge that, or for a route that I probably won't use. We're calling this new one the Salem Alternative. Really, it's 4D Light. Currently, do we have a traffic count of how many cars exit from Center Street going northbound on Front Street? Those are the cars that are going to use this new route. I think probably 95% of the traffic coming across that bridge in the morning is to come to the downtown core area, not to head out northbound on the freeway. I don't know if we have that data or not, but the dollars we're talking about is tremendous. I see a lot of green stickers in the room. If each one of them put up $1 million themselves, it wouldn't even be a drop in the bucket to what we're talking about spending. It's got to stop. We can't just keep spending more money, more money, more money. We're spending apparently $100,000 every month to study and think about this. To me, that's That's outrageous. One of the ideas of how to fund this is going to be tolls. What's that going to do? Is that going to speed traffic up? I don't think so. That's going to slow it down even more. Have you ever seen any public project that came in under budget? I don't think I've ever heard of such a thing. So now we're saying that 720 million for the existing one. It's going to be a little less or a little more with the changes. We don't know what that's going to be. If it's 720 million for the existing, maybe that one drops to 600 million. That's still more money than we spent on any other public work projects that I'm aware of. There's just gotta, I didn't think I would ever say this, but I yearn for the Mike Swain mayor council, because at least they were a little more frugal with how we spend money. What we have
Thank you very
now-
much. Your time is up. We appreciate your testimony. Thank you. Okay, Madeline, and then following her, Nicholas Williams, and then Steve Lacey.
Hello, my name is Madeline Noel, and I live at 4050 Liberty Road South. I would like to say that I am in support of the third bridge, and I appreciate the city's ongoing research for the best bridge for our community. I'm glad to hear that we're looking for options that will add beauty and design as well as functionality to our already beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions? All right, thank you very much. Nicholas Williams, and then Steve Lacey.
Madam Mayor and council members, thank you for listening to our testimony this evening. I'm Nicholas Williams. I live at 3226 Caribou Court Northwest, and I ardently support a third bridge for Salem and our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions of councilors? Thank you very much. Steve Lacey, and then Ben Demling.
Hi, I'm Steve Lacey, 2600 Front Street Northeast, and that's just north of Pine Street. We have a property there called Rosehaven Mobile Park. It's been our family for a little over 40 years. From the looks of it, I am in the impact zone for the bridgehead. Looking at this, it said earlier that there wasn't any residential people affected. Maybe because I am a commercial, quote, commercial property, my tenants don't fall into that category. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about our family and what we've done over the years. Like I said, over 40 years of ownership here, and we've turned it into a retirement community. My parents passed away about 7 years ago. And at that time, my wife and I decided that we would take no income off that property, that our own jobs and businesses were doing well. We wanted to be able to provide a place where we had the lowest rents, a safe environment, close to shopping for elderly people that not all of them can drive or get around easy. I pay everything except power and a $350 a month rent. These people don't have any place to go. The city's made it hard for us. I can't bring mobile homes in from outside city limits. If I was to close the park, it would cost me between $10,000 and $25,000 per unit to clear the property, my responsibility. Not only would you destroy what my family's worked 40 years for, but you'd take a lot of good people and put them in positions they can't afford. Even at that $350, over half my tenants, that's about 55 to 60% of their monthly income. The extra money we get from there, I pay for the roof repairs. They own the units, but we take care of them. And I'd like to see that carry on to the next generation of my family and go on. And I don't think people see the cost there. I read an article the other day that there's a lot of small business. They're like our family. They bought their properties many years ago. They're paid for, they're free and clear. The only reason they're making a living there is because of that fact. To replace my little park is over 7 figures. I really doubt if you're going to pay that kind of money when the time comes. You'll put us out of business as well as displace all those people. So I'd like to look at the human aspect. Several years ago, I met a gentleman on one of your search committees who showed me some rough ideas and drawings at lunch. And one was to put a bridge out towards the Kaiser area. I'll say Shamawa. I don't remember the exact location. Another one out towards like Browns Island. The idea that it spread that transportation unit, wider than the city is now to allow growth, to allow you to bring in the businesses that you seek to increase your tax base and offer more employment. I really think this just creates more congestion and a lot of cost to realign, to remove, and I don't think it's going to solve as many problems that by the time that bridge becomes fruition, the problem's going to be beyond it. So you might consider it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Are there questions by councilors? Councilor Dickey.
Yeah, thanks for coming down. I'm just curious to know, how many units do you have in your park?
We have 24 units. There's also, originally it was a dairy back in the 40s. There's 2 homes on there which provide 3 more units on there. So about 60 people total.
Thank you very much. Okay, Ben, is it Demling? And then Steve Emberg. Maybe it's Steve Emerson. All right, welcome.
My name is Ben Doimling. Thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors, for letting me speak. I'm a resident of 2667 Orchard Heights Roads here in Salem. I'm also a business owner in rural Polk County and rely on the bridge for transporting product. It's a wood products business, and we transport lumber across the bridge regularly. Rush hour is a negligible concern for me. When I think about changing my schedule depending on the time of day, I think about, do I need to add a half an hour if I'm going to Portland? But I add about a minute if it's in the morning or the evening when I'm going across the bridge here in Salem. I think long-range planning is very important, and I'm encouraged to see that this discussion of long-range planning is going on here at the council. And I'm encouraged that future transportation options is part of that long-range plan. I worry, however, that focusing on a third bridge as our primary option takes our focus away from so many other options. And the conversation always seems to revolve around the bridge with modifications, but I would really encourage the council to consider thinking about all the options, and many of them have been mentioned, and some of them were even included in that very nice presentation, but it always focuses on the bridge first and everything else around that. And I would really encourage the opposite approach of, let's fix everything we can on both sides of the bridge and then work on this massive, expensive project of a bridge. Let's work with small, cheaper, more sensible, logical things first. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions by the councilors? Thanks very much. Appreciate your testimony. Steve Emerson, followed by Joseph Penner.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councilors. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Steve Emerson. I am the co-chair of the Highland Neighborhood Association. I live at 935 Tamarack Street Northeast. I've been in the Highland neighborhood, well, been in Salem for, wow, probably 40 years. So the Highland Neighborhood Association passed a resolution last week regarding the third bridge, and I'll read a little bit from it here. Be it resolved that the Highland Neighborhood Association recommends the Salem City Council, other local government entities such as the Salem-Kaiser Area Transportation Study, along with the Oregon Department of Transportation, focus efforts on low-build, no-build options as opposed to any of the currently proposed alternatives. The Highland Neighborhood Association opposes any proposed bridge design cited in the Highland neighborhood which requires elevated approaches and/or is incapable of being integrated with the existing street grid. So I'm at a bit of a disadvantage here. I'm very much a data guy by profession. And the Salem alternative, which is a great name, by the way, it does away with all of my calculations and spreadsheets showing, you know, costs and acreage and all this kind of stuff. So I've got to pretty much throw all that out the window. So while I certainly appreciate the mitigation on the impact on the West Salem side of the river, of course we're still left with large elevated ramps, kind of a half cloverleaf thing in the middle of the Highland neighborhood. The Highland Neighborhood Association, of course, we have had a strong suspicion, given the history of bridge efforts, the high degree of likelihood that the bridgehead was going to end up in our neighborhood. This is something that's been an agenda item in our neighborhood association meetings for many, many months. As a result, we've had a lot of conversation about this. Myself, when I first started looking at the bridge alternatives, when I first started being involved with this process, I was actually somebody who kind of leaned on the pro-bridge side. And what turned me on that was actually a conversation I had with one of the CH2M Hill traffic engineers. And the conversation went something like, how about carrying the parkway through, or maybe something at Shamawa Road? And of course, the response is there is a relatively trivial amount of traffic that goes through there, which is regional traffic. This is not truck traffic from Portland to the coast. This is the majority of the traffic is West Salem commuters to the Capitol Mall. For every block away from downtown, north or south, the proposed bridges are sited, it reduces the impact on the existing bridges because you're lengthening the drive for those commuters to get to the Capitol Mall. Now, given that, I look at this and I think, well, if they're going to the Capitol Mall, I am a state worker, I park in the Capitol Mall, I can appreciate that. We have other ways of mitigating that traffic problem. When we look at the cars that come over the bridge, it's one passenger per car. And I commute myself that way at times. I certainly am not going to point fingers at anybody. But we have other ways of encouraging folks to seek alternatives. Things as simple as raising the surface lot parking rates. If parking is difficult downtown, you're going to be motivated to find an alternative way to get to work. So I think those are certainly things we need to consider. In any case, we may talk about this being the beginning of the end, which is another nice quote. I like that. But we should understand that whatever decision comes out of this meeting, when the site is identified, there are a number of properties in the Highland neighborhood which will be within the zone that will be impacted. Just the fact that they are within that proposed zone will have a real and immediate impact on those property owners. If you are a residential property owner, if you are a commercial property owner, it will be considerably more difficult for you to attract and keep a quality tenant. Now, I speak from experience. My family owns some commercial real estate downtown. A number of years ago, one of the lots was smack dab in the middle of one of the proposed sites for the convention center. Of course, the convention center was eventually sited someplace else. It took a number of years after the convention center was built to have that condemnation removed. And it had a significant impact on my family's finances as a result. So again, we need to be aware that even without a formal condemnation in place, with the knowledge that this is in a proposed zone, if you're a commercial property owner, life's going to be very difficult for you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there questions by any of the counselors? All right, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Joseph Penner, followed by Michael Wolf.
Joseph Penner, 1242 3rd Street.
Can you speak right into the microphone? We can hear you better.
Thank you. My wife and I submitted written testimony. I will keep my comments brief. I've lived in West Salem for 8 years. My wife has lived there for 4 years. We are of the opinion that we do not need a new bridge currently. We are of the belief that 20 years from now, we still will not need a new bridge. So we just would like to register our opposition to the Salem alternative, though we are grateful for the modifications that were made from the 4D alternative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your coming down and submitting written testimony as well. Are there any questions by counselors? All right, thank you so much. Michael Wolf.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Michael Wolf. I own a business at 4071 Liberty Road South, South Salem Cycle Works. And I've served on a variety of transportation committees over the past few decades. And of course, as the owner of South Salem Cycle Works, those were pretty much bicycle and pedestrian focused, but that's always intermingled with the use of the automobile as well. Economically, I question the feasibility of continued study of the third bridge. I believe that funding should be focused on the infrastructure that exists in Salem and improving the safety and accessibility of alternate modes, including mass transit. I interact with a wide variety of different types of citizens and customers and their needs for transportation. Some are using bicycles as fitness and recreation, while others use bicycles as their primary source of transportation. And either through economic necessity or the inability to use an automobile. And so for those that aren't able to use that automobile as their primary source of transportation, mass transit becomes a very important part of their life. In Salem, we don't have mass transit on weekends, and the hours are a little limited too. The major streets of Salem radiate from the center of Salem outwards, much like the rays of the sun. There aren't a lot of alternative means of getting from one place in Salem to another. Parallel roads, bicycle boulevards, things like that that we have in Portland or Eugene, where we have a grid layout, may exist, but we don't have that in Salem. Your arterials in Salem often have a bike lane, maybe 4 foot wide. National standard is 6 foot. And I've really pushed over the years, the decades, to get better means, better access for both pedestrians and bicycles. I think that the continued funding and energy on studying the possibility of adding a third bridge or finding possible funds to build this is to ignore the existing needs, transportation needs, of greater percentage of the Salem area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony. Are there questions by any of the counselors? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rick Day, followed by Robert Klinke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Rick Day. I live on Shipman Lane in Salem. My business is on Candlewood Drive off the Salem Parkway on the Kaiser side. I'm here in support of the bridges. I appreciate what Mr. Fernandez, his presentation, what his Public Works Department does. I see projects all over town, and I see improvements happening that make transportation much better. We run heavy trucks. We employ 35 people over there. 20% of our workforce lives in Polk County, and they come from that side. We send trucks over the bridge frequently. I'm always concerned about a failure or a blockage on the bridge. I think we need to plan ahead, and we need to seek an alternative. I like the plan that was presented tonight. The infrastructure also creates jobs for our company, our employees, and our customers. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Are there questions of Mr. Day? We appreciate you coming down. Thank you. Robert Klinke, followed by John Gear, and then Mary Ann. Let's see. I always think this is like the eye chart at the doctor's. Mary Ann Bakowski? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Who's
Thanks
up
for
next?
hearing me. My name's Robert Kleinke. I have been a Salem tenant for, and it's a tenant, 31 years. Hope to be here as long as you guys will have me. Part of planning for the future is kind of preparing for things before you have to have them. So maybe we don't need it by 2035. Maybe it takes more after that. But the beauty of doing it early is when you do need it, you got it. I have a small business that is off of Mission Street, and a lot of the testimony has been about what's happening on the bridge. Nobody's looked about what's happening outside of that. Well, travel Mission Street, and that is the route from I-5 to the bridge, and you can open up the capacity down Mission Street, Market Street, many other areas of commerce that's coming from Portland to West Salem, Dallas, Monmouth, the coast, lots of areas. So I'm in for the bridge. I definitely support it, and I hope you guys will support our city, and that's it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony as well. And counselors, does anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you so much. John Gear.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilors. My name is John Gear. I live in Ward 1. And I'm just going to point out that the signs that you referred to earlier as a distraction, quiet signs that sit there, partly necessitated by the fact that of the 5 public hearings that you've held, or the public meetings that you've held, and since adopting, or the staff report on the first plan, November 5th, you did not allow any public comment for any of those work sessions, including the 2 work sessions that were held in a facility where the public could not see, they were not taped, they were not broadcast. You're now considering what is called cleverly the Salem alternative And of course, it's the Salem staff alternative because the Salem neighborhoods who have had a chance to weigh in on this proposal are all against it. You can't have a proposal that's the Salem alternative that the people of Salem are against. You speak often about the value of the neighborhood associations. Well, I urge you to listen to the neighborhood associations. And the neighborhood associations are saying Salem has many crying needs for the money that you are spending fixated on a structure. I suggested you read Thinking Fast and Slow because he talked about the planning fallacy where planners fixate on the solution and then only seek the information that confirms their predetermined conclusion. And he says that it is a classic fallacy to go out and answer one question like, what do we do about congestion in downtown Salem? And instead of actually sticking to that question, you seek and you leap to another easier answer. And you simply focus only on that answer, that third bridge. There's lots you can do that is cheaper than a new build alternative. The oversight team selected an alternative that was not supported by the people who had spent years on this question, and the neighborhoods of Salem and the people of Salem are telling you, do not adopt this, particularly not with cartoons instead of planning and proposal discussion by the people of Salem first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? All right, thank you. Mary Ann, welcome.
Yes, my name is Mary Ann Baklowski. I live at 1887 Park Avenue Northeast. I've had a very hard time trying to figure out what to say as my testimony tonight because there are so many reasons not to build this bridge. Most of them have been spoken to, and my reasons are basically two. It comes down to money, and it comes down to the fact that, as Mr. Gear said ahead of me, we're looking at a 20th century solution here. We are not looking at a 21st century solution. The world is changing very quickly, even as we speak, and I don't see this reflected at all in this plan. We all have heard of the car that Google has built that doesn't need a driver. Do you really think that transportation is going to be the same by the time this bridge is built as it is right now? I don't think it's going to be. It's going to be lots of great big changes in our future. The other big thing, of course, which has been addressed many times by the people speaking tonight, is the funding. We don't have the money for so many things in this town right now. Why do you want to take all the money that we can possibly have for the next 30 years and put it towards a bridge that may or may not be useful in 30 years? I'm just going to keep repeating myself in the arguments that everybody else has already repeated, so I'll just stop here. Just please, I really do hope that our city councilors see the wisdom of not building this bridge.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there questions by any of the councilors? Okay, thank you. Next is Brad Braunhaber, followed by Aaron Molyneux, and then Mike Eastling.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name's Brad Braunhaber. I own a small business here in Salem, a service-related business. So I do everything in my power to not drive around town. When I can, I use the internet as much as possible. But I do have customers anywhere from Staten to Dallas, from Kaiser to South Salem, and up in Portland as well. I'm really in support of this bridge. I think it will make a difference. I've heard the fors and againsts. I've talked to some of the against, and some of them have very good points. I know we need to look at every option, and Mr. Fernandez did a fantastic job on the presentation. I really just want to say that I'm in support of this bridge, and I hope you guys really, push it forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there questions by any of the councilors? We appreciate your testimony. Thank you so much. Aaron, and followed by Mike Eastling, and then Mark Shipman.
Madam Mayor and council members, my name is Erin Molyneux, and I believe I live in Ward 2 and I work in Ward 1 downtown. And actually, I own a business right here in Pringle Park Plaza. And this has been informational, I think, the most for me. A little bit fascinating. And I guess for me, I'm in support of business. I'm in support of growth. I'm in support of continuing our search and research and findings on if this bridge is a good fit for us and a good fit for out north.
All right, thank you. Are there questions? Appreciate you being here this evening. Mike Eastland and then Mark Shipman. Am I saying the name incorrectly? It always helps if I put my glasses on. No, it does say Mike Eastland. Maybe he stepped out. Well, if he comes back, he can talk, he can testify. Mr. Shipman, followed by Ryan Albritton, and then Caroline Bridges.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good
Thank
evening.
you very
Welcome.
much. And members of the council, for the record, Mark Shipman, 250 Church Street, Southeast, Suite 300, here in Salem. I'm here this evening speaking in support of the Salem alternative as presented by your staff this evening. 67 years ago, in 1947, the city of Salem created our first comprehensive plan for our city. One of the elements in that comprehensive plan was transportation. In that transportation element, they were speaking of the need for a second bridge. This is back in 1947, over the Willamette. 5 years later, that bridge started construction, and the 6th year, it was completed. Projects like the riverfront crossing don't occur overnight. They take a lot of time for planning, visioning, implementing to maintain the economic health of our community. The Salem alternative is a good compromise, and you should recommend that Councilor Clem advance this Salem alternative to the Salem River Crossing Oversight Team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Mr. Shipman? We appreciate your testimony. Mr. Albritton.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. Ryan Albritton, 302 State Street. And I just wanted to come and say that I am in support of the Salem alternative, or the Salem Bridge, whatever you'd like to call it. You know, I was talking to some individuals the other day, those that actually oppose a bridge or construction, and it was interesting because as I was in conversation and we were having dialogue over it, one of the things that was said was that Salem can survive the next 20 years without this bridge. And while I appreciate that opinion, I don't share in that opinion from a standpoint that I'm not one that wants to see Salem survive. I want to see Salem thrive. And I want to see it thrive through business. I want to see it thrive through more individuals moving here and taking part in the city that all of us love, no matter what side of the agenda that you're on tonight. We all have a stake in this, and this is democracy at its finest, and it's fun to watch this, not from a standpoint of who opposes and who is a proponent for, but more so that the process plays out, and all of us should appreciate each other's opinions as we move forward as a city, and as we all want the best for Salem. So I appreciate everyone's input tonight, and appreciate the job that the council has to do, and also, Madam Mayor, that you have to do with regard to the decision that you're going to make in the near future. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony as well. And are there questions for Mr. Albritton? All right, thank you so much. Caroline Bridges? Oh, okay, thank you. And Jim Lewis, followed by David Canfield.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Councilors. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you this evening. My name is Jim Lewis, and my address is 1458 Crest Hill Avenue Northwest. I'm here tonight to add my voice of support for the now called Salem alternative. I think that it is time for Salem to move forward. I recognize the concern and the fear that process this involved and this potentially expensive scares people. It scares me too. I don't have $1 million. But I truly believe that Salem is at a point in its evolution that it needs to be moving forward. I don't necessarily mean that the bridge needs to be here next week, but the idea that it will take 15 to 20 years tells me that the timing is right. And I would hate to stop the process now, put it on the shelf for 5 years, and start all over. My perception is that when it comes to process, we are getting more and more involved, more and more expensive. If you could tell me 5 years from now the process would be cut in half and the cost of that process would be cut in half, I'd wait. But I don't anticipate that happening. I do want to address just one issue, if I could, from a personal standpoint, and that is a comment that the bridge would bring a detriment to downtown Salem. It was 20 years ago in Corvallis, on a night very similar to this, where the Corvallis City Council was hearing public testimony on the bypass that was going to go around downtown Corvallis. People came and said, it'll kill downtown. It'll become a ghost town. As if the log trucks, there were log trucks back then, and the transit things stopped in downtown. They came downtown and went across the bridge and onto Highway 34. The Corvallis was wise in its decision to build that overpass, that bypass, and downtown Corvallis is thriving more today than it ever has before. So although there are concerns with this project, I strongly recommend that you move forward and that you do it unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your testimony. Were there any questions for Mr. Lewis? All right, David Canfield, followed by Sandy Smith.
Madam
Welcome.
Mayor, Salem Council members. My name is David Canfield. I'm a resident of West Salem. I have a news flash for you. Bridges aren't going to be going on sale anytime soon. Salem Parkway Highway 72, after a 1981 environmental impact statement was completed and added to ODOT's system in 1985. It was built on the alignment of an abandoned interstate which was removed by resolution in December of '76. The interstate would have provided a third bridge for Salem near the North Salem Fred Meyer. Since that time, everything has grown. 1950, I've lived in this town all my life. I've seen it triple in population almost. We needed a third bridge then, and record growth on both sides of the river has brought congestion and gridlock on both sides so that even the need is more pronounced now. Folks traveling through Salem in any direction add to the gridlock in downtown simply because there is no alternative. A third bridge properly placed would actually improve commerce for business on both sides of the river by removing these congestion issues. A new bridge with properly placed access could help through traffic and help businesses. The longer we wait to fix this problem, the more it's going to cost. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Appreciate your testimony this evening. Just feels like tomorrow morning, that's all. Sorry. Sandy Smith, followed by Cindy Kolpovich. All right, thank you. Welcome.
Hi. I'm Sandy Smith, 2514 Hazel Avenue. We are on the corner of Hazel and Hickory, and I'm still going to refer to it as 4D because I didn't see anything about North Salem mentioned in the Salem alternative, and because I have written this in rhyme, I couldn't change it that quickly. So this is for the another voice for the seemingly invisible people who actually live on Pine and Hickory and in that neighborhood. At the north end of town, where the cherry trees grow, and the wind brings cotton from the river when it blows, and the birds always sing, excepting old crows, is a place where alternative 4D is proposed. I am not the Lorax who speaks for the trees. I speak for the people of Highland and Grant, in neighborhoods like these, places where more often than not the powerless dwell, ponds for developers to buy and sell. Look, they say, there's no cause for alarm. The bridge will help your neighborhood. It'll do you no harm. It'll be quite useful. This bridge is a need. A need's a fine something that all people need. You can use it for jobs, for sidewalks, for speed. It will solve all your problems, fulfill every need. And the people said, Madams and sirs, you are crazy with greed. There is no one on earth who will pay for that fool's need, for millions of dollars. It is not what we need. A bridge is not a sidewalk, not a bike lane or a bus. It's not a needed stop sign. A bridge won't help us. Oh, they said back, it will create jobs. It will eliminate weight when the traffic clogs. Our thinking is forward for the future down the road. I rushed across the room and in no time at all, grabbed my phone and put in a quick call. I called all my brothers and uncles and aunts and neighbors and friends in Highland and Grant. And I said, listen here, here's a wonderful chance. Get over here fast. Tell City Council what you think, that you love living here and you want to stay. And you hope they will vote no on 4D, so you may. They tell us they mean no harm. They truly do not. But when the road gets bigger, bigger is what you've got. Bigger traffic, bigger noise, bigger pollution, bigger streets, bigger problems left for those of us here to meet, long after the rest of you speed through our streets. Then someone said, oh, but the people in North Salem will prosper from the increased business the extra traffic will foster. We will help those poor people with our bridge of 6 lanes. They'll be thanking us later as sure as it rains. And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you, Highlanders don't need a quick connect to the west to help revitalize and improve us to be our best. We are not a neighborhood in decline. Please don't divide us with increased traffic on Pine. And so, Madam Mayor and councilors of the city, think of community, what that means, and take pity. Remember the word of the Lorax when he left, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And better in this case is a vote no on 4D. 4D is not the right option. I hope you can see, or any bridge that sacrifices whole neighborhoods of people like me. And because you can see that I'm all out of time, if you have any questions, you must ask it in rhyme.
Well, you caused me to break my own rule. We all have to applaud. Thank you for adding a lightness and literature to our evening. Thank you very much. Okay, Cindy Kolpovich, and then Jason Brandt and Mark Connect.
Hi, my name is Cindy Kolpovich. I live at 645 Mule Deer Street Northwest. I live in West Salem. And I want to thank you, Madam Mayor and City Councilors, for allowing me to voice my opinion tonight. And I do hope that my opinion matters and that your goal in this discussion is to represent your constituents and to meet their goals, and that you are hearing the strong voice of opposition in this community to building the third bridge, particularly as evidenced by the neighborhood associations voting against the third bridge build. I am opposed to a bridge for 2 main reasons. It's not needed, and I don't want to spend the money or force my children or even my grandchildren to pay for it. Personally, living in West Salem, I experienced very little congestion on both the Marion Street Bridge and Center Street bridges, leading me to the conclusion that a third bridge isn't needed. According to ODOT statistics, there's no prediction for enormous traffic growth in the near future. Mia Nelson of 1,000 Friends of Oregon, who spoke at the last meeting, mentioned statistics from ODOT that back up my personal experience. Oregonians' total driving peaked in 2002 and has been declining ever since. This trend preceded the recession and higher fuel prices and continues despite an 11% increase in Oregon's population and economic recovery. In Marion and Polk counties, per capita miles driven have decreased about 11% since 2002. Continuing this discussion about building a third bridge is extremely costly, to the tune of $100,000 per month. This money could be much better spent on less expensive projects to relieve any current or future congestion and help with earthquake preparedness. My suggestions are to retrofit the current bridges for earthquake safety and complete the modifications to the bridge heads that haven't yet been completed that were originally suggested back in 1998 through the Willamette River Bridgehead Engineering Study. Retrofitting could take place at the same time the existing bridges are being expanded, and this would actually be consistent with Oregon Transportation System policies for state highways, which is to maintain and upgrade existing infrastructure before building new facilities. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your testimony. Are there any questions by councilors? All right, thank you so much. Jason Brandt, followed by Mark Connect, and then Ann Thies.
Good evening, City Council. Madam Mayor, my name is Jason Brandt, Chief Executive Officer for the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce. We're located at 1110 Commercial Street Northeast. Well, first and foremost, I want to say it was an absolute pleasure back in 2008 partnering with the city to pass the Streets and Bridges Bond. So we're continuing to go through that process of making sure that we have transportation connectivity throughout this community. By passing that $99.8 billion bond, Brad Nanke, your fellow city councilor, as well as Jim Lewis, a community leader, came together to lead the way to pass the Streets and Bridges Bond. And still to this day, we're seeing those projects add fuel to our local economy. So just want to thank you for that. Peter, excellent presentation today as Director of Public Works. The Salem alternative is really something I believe the large majority of citizens in this community can get behind. And really what we need to do as a community is make sure that we have the resources available to get the message out about all of those items and the amenities that are included in the presentation that Peter provided today. The conversation up to this point, I believe, has been 4D versus 4A. And really what we're talking about is an alternative that Salem has compromised on. As a chamber, we look specifically at the fact that, you know, the transportation alternative that relieves the most congestion possible is the best alternative in terms of the flow of commerce. But even for us as a Chamber of Commerce, we understand the importance of compromise and coming to the table to find a community solution that all parties can live with. And I think that we are getting there with the Salem alternative. And it's just a matter of getting out to neighborhood associations and getting out to other groups and making sure that everyone can be a part of that solution and can be empowered. So a couple things. You've heard from neighborhood associations, but I want to make sure you know that there are some that have still, of course, the large majority of which have not discussed, you know, the third bridge issue. And so there's still a lot of work to be done to make sure they have all the arguments and all the facts in front of them before they make a decision about how their neighborhood associations feel. I know that there is a recently merged neighborhood association, Swan, that is supportive of the bridge. So there's still a lot of work to be done. I want to encourage the staff to continue in the great work that they've been doing. The Salem alternative is a viable compromise, and phasing is crucial. And remember that parts of this plan do not include financing that's needed in the future. We already have the financing today, and it's been a part of our plan for years. So let's vision plan for the future. Let's make sure we have a community that's available and ready for our children and grandchildren, and just make sure we accomplish great things for our future. So one point that I have to disagree with Peter on, we usually agree on many things, but I believe that reduced congestion directly correlates to livability. The last thing I want to see is North Salem streets and West Salem streets clogged up with congestion. So let's solve the problem and let's plan for our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions for Mr. Brandt? All right, thank you so much. Mark Connect, followed by Ann Thies, and then Nick Radke.
I already testified at the first hearing, but there was another matter that I wanted to address, but that can wait till later. I had signed up other than apparently they missed that, or do you have some more at the end?
That'll be fine, yes. You mean there are other items on the agenda that you wanted to speak to later? Okay, that's fine. Yes, you can do that. Thank you. Okay. Hello. Thank you for coming.
Madam Mayor and the council, my name is Ann Tice. I live at 2425 Crestmont South. I've only lived in Salem for about 2.5 years, but I, like Ryan said earlier, want to see this community thrive. I'm in support of another bridge in this community. I spent 30 years in a community outside of Minneapolis, very much like Salem is outside of Portland. And during the time that I lived there, I saw them put 2 new bridges across the Mississippi River to connect those sides of that community, and I saw what kind of an economic impact it made. So I think we should do the same here and plan for our future. I think it's good for business, it's good for the community, and good for our economic growth and development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony. Were there any questions by counselors? All right, thank you so much. Nick Radke, followed by Jean Benson and Roberta Cade. Are you Mr. Radke? Well, why don't you go ahead and testify? You must be Jean Benson? Yep. All right, thank you. If Mr. Radke comes back, if somebody will let him know, he can testify if he comes in. Okay, Mr. Benson, followed by Roberta Cade.
My name is Gene Benson. We've got a business on 2195 Street, North Commercial, and this is a block south of Pine Street. Our family started our business in 1961, farther down Commercial Street at 2515, and that's when Commercial Street was still a two-way street that went north and south. So we saw the coupler of Liberty Street go through, and what an improvement that made when Commercial Street became a one-way street that took and everything went south on it. When I was young, which has been a long time ago, I can remember my father going to meetings in regards to bridge meeting, where they were going to put a bridge at the end of Pine Street. It still hasn't been done. This whole thing should have been done years and years ago. But they missed the boat on a lot of things. They should have planned in the development of West Salem so that they could have taken that road right up on over the top and brought it back in out by Oak Knoll Golf Course to alleviate all the truck traffic that now comes by our place. People have said, there's no trucks down there. I'm here to tell you there's trucks. There's lots of them. You couple that with the problems that you have when there is a problem downtown at the bridge. You couple that with the trains crossing at both Commercial Street and Liberty Street. And in today's times, the traffic will back up past our place, which we are 4 blocks from the tracks and a block south of Pine Street. But the traffic will back up all the way to there, minimum 3 times a day. In that traffic, many, many trucks. Those trucks are only going downtown so they can get across the bridge and they can head out. If you can put them across the bridge long before that, you'd be a lot better off. They'd be happier, and it would make it so people would want to go downtown, and you don't have to deal with it. The only thing that I wish you guys would figure out a way to put into this deal is a way so that the trains wouldn't block the traffic as well. You put that into the piece of the thing, and you got a good program. But yeah, I'm in support of this thing very much. And we do have a dog in the fight because we have one of the early alternatives would have taken my business and put me out of business. Okay, now that's not in effect, but we have other property down the street that it's going to affect it. How it's going to affect it, I don't have a clue, but it needs to be done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there questions? Appreciate your coming down. Thank you. Roberta Cade, followed by Philip. Thank you. I just knew that was going to be it. Philip Sambernez? Santa Benez. Thank you. All right, Roberta? Thank you.
Hi. Mayor Peterson, council members, my name is Roberta Cade. I live at 1735 Wallace Road, Northwest, in Ward 8. And I have some concerns. My house is directly impacted. It will be even under this newest version. Yet my taxes keep going up. It sounds like if this is put in, they'll go up again. So from a personal perspective, I'm not very happy about this bridge. But the other thing I'm really concerned about is that we have heard so many possibilities come up about what we could do instead, or at least meanwhile. And I would like to see some of the suggestions that have been made put to a test. I can tell you that I've been paying attention, someone said this the last meeting, to my Friday drive over the bridge. And Friday, when the state workers are on furlough, that bridge is a piece of cake at 5 o'clock. And I think that we need to look at staggering workers' hours. When I worked, before I retired, I worked 4 10-hour days. And I never had a problem getting over the bridge, except for that one incident. And what we did then, we turned an eastbound lane on Center Street Bridge into a westbound lane to get some of us across that river. And it worked. Seattle and other big cities do that routinely with their heavy traffic, major roads, turning them every single day, in the morning one direction and in the evening in another direction. We haven't talked about that at all that I know of. And I think that adding buses along with some of these other suggestions are things that we ought to be putting into place right now. Some of them would be not cost us any money, and we would find out just how much really we need a new bridge. It's my opinion we don't. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any of the counselors have questions? All right, appreciate your testimony, Roberta. And Philip? You would think I could say that again. Santa Benez.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Welcome. Appreciate you coming to testify tonight.
Madam Mayor, I support a no build on the bridge. My name is Philip Santabanez. I live 671 Northwest Rosemont. I'm a taxpayer and a homeowner, and I appreciate you the opportunity to speak. I cross the bridge every morning. If I cross the bridge 7:30 a.m. or later, I'm in congestion. So I have the opportunity to start 5 minutes ahead, so like 7:25, 7:20, and it's free flowing. It's like it's a holiday. I can cross the bridge with no problem. When it does get congested, I avoid the north and south lanes of the bridge, which have traffic lights, which is, to me, a restriction. So if you were to free those up, it's a matter of flow. I don't have much to say. I just hope you guys look at what the previous speaker had to say, was to stagger the work schedules, if it's a possibility. I mean, that would save a lot of money and headache, and improve traffic flow. That's it.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions by counselors? All right, thank you. And next, Tom.
You can do it. Tom Check.
How do you say it?
Tom Check.
Tom Sek?
Tom Check.
Tom Check. Thank you very much. And Rebecca Ingle following him. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors. My name is Tom Tomczyk, 3291 Willamette Drive North in Kaiser. I've been a resident of Salem, Kaiser area for about 37 years. Appreciate your continuing effort to listen and respond to the many concerns that the community has about this congestion problem we have in Salem. The city's staff has several times said that Salem has already done everything they can do to increase capacity at the existing bridgeheads. I differ with that. There are still, however, several projects that are mentioned in the 2031 Regional Transportation System Plan that the City of Salem could undertake that would help alleviate some of the traffic congestion and perhaps eliminate the need for a third bridge in the downtown area. Some of the listed projects that are already on the drawing board are improvements to the Marion Street Bridge approach from commercial to facilitate truck turning onto the bridge, improving intersections along Wallace Road, improvements at the Wallace Road Edgewater Street to provide additional bridge entrance on Edgewater, synchronizing traffic signals between downtown and West Salem, and construction of Marine Drive parallel to Wallace Road out to the River Bend Road area. All of these above projects have tentative schedule funding, but have not yet been completed, so we don't really know what the impact will be on traffic congestion reduction. So we're kind of putting the cart before the horse in a way by planning a new bridge when we don't even know what the improvements may solve. Other projects that could reduce congestion and improve safety that aren't in the TSP include rerouting traffic approaching the Marion Street Bridge from the south on Front Street to help alleviate the weaving problems on the bridge for people trying to go either all the way across to get to Wallace Road or trying to get all the way across to go to out to the coast. Installing a left turn ramp off Center Street Bridge going north on Front Street to eliminate the need for a traffic light on that corner. Constructing an overpass for vehicles turning left on Dokes Ferry Drive to Highway 22. If cars could safely turn toward town on off of Dokes Ferry, that would give them another alternative rather than coming down Glen Creek and Wallace Road. Another one that was mentioned in the bridgehead study was replacing the at-grade pedestrian crossing at Front Street and Court Street and replace that with an overpass or an underpass. and then improving access for emergency vehicles on the west side of the pedestrian bridge. There's also projects that don't require construction, such as working, as has been mentioned several times, working with the state to schedule staggered work hours to spread out the traffic, and then improving our bus system. So I guess in a nutshell, try, if we can get 60, 70, 80% of the benefit by spending 20% of the money, that seems like a more prudent use of our tax funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there questions by any of the counselors? All right. Thanks for coming and testifying tonight. Rebecca Engel, followed by Tom Anderson, and then Allison Fisher. Welcome. Hi.
Hi. Thank you. I'm Rebecca Engel, Chair of Can-Do Neighborhood Association, and we recently passed a resolution, very recently, because we didn't have a meeting scheduled between here. And I just wanted to say thank you very much for all the work that you did on the Salem alternative, what it's called. I really appreciate that you've taken the feedback from people and taken the feedback from the community and changed things. A lot of the things that we had major concerns about. There are still some concerns, and the one main concern that we've had for some time is that this alternative, anything that's at that location, takes all the traffic and it kind of funnels it through a pretty small area, and that's what's happening right now. Everything's being funneled through downtown, and what this does is makes it slightly larger. And like a few people, that funnel it gets a little bit larger, but not really enough to take in, like some of the people in the past have said up here, that it doesn't really take into consideration further down the road. I support another bridge across the river at some point, in some way, at some place, but this doesn't seem like a very forward-thinking location as far as what we're doing to traffic, still funneling it through a pretty small area of our region. So that's a big concern, that this location, I like a lot of the ideas that have been coming up and a lot of the things that came up in the new alternative, the Salem alternative, about the things that are being done on either side of the bridge to make the traffic flow better, off and on and off of the bridge, which seems to be the major issues actually. Some of the options about, things with the state workers and all these things that have been coming up are great options. We have a lot of things in our resolution about the time that it takes, and some other people have mentioned if you leave 5 minutes early or if you change your schedules just slightly, there's a lot of changes that can happen. So I think that because of it's not currently it's not an excessive wait time, it's a very costly project, and there are traffic issues, obviously, that this does not address on either side of the bridge, and those, I think it would be more beneficial to put our resources into fixing some of the other, we've talked about some things on either side of the bridge that would be fixed with this Salem alternative, but there's more things I think that could be, resources could be put into on either side of the bridge that would actually cause traffic to decrease, or that traffic backup to decrease. Obviously, we're really concerned about, we're a neighborhood association, we're really concerned about livability, we're concerned about our community and what that's like. Walkability is a big thing, and again, looking into the future, there has been a trend of less driving, and I think that as technology increases, that actually is what is driving that, and that will increase. And if we aren't looking that far forward and we're stuck in this mentality of we just need a new bridge and not looking at all the other technologies and things that are changing our lives, then we aren't going to make the best possible decision for our community. And some of the areas that are being hardest hit, as we talked about, somebody mentioned earlier, the Rosehaven, I think it was, that these are some areas that are some of our poorest, some of our most poverty-stricken areas, and as a community, I feel like we really need to take that into consideration, that we have responsibility for the areas of our community that don't necessarily always have a voice. And so it's important to me to give a voice to some of those people and say these areas we need to be taking into consideration their livability, their walkability. These oftentimes are places where people are needing to walk, they can't drive, or they don't have transportation, other options. And so we need to take that into consideration as well. You know, in addition, a lot of times our poorest neighborhoods are the ones that are hit with things because they don't have a voice. And so things like congestion being brought into those, and pollution, air pollution, and other things that are brought in. Obviously, you know, that is going to, anytime you bring a new road into an area, it's going to change things there. So we just wanted to make sure that we have our voice heard. The Canoe Neighborhood Association really wants to stand behind, especially those neighborhoods that are hit over there with Grant and Highland area, and make sure that the City Council knows that it's not a bridge completely. It's not just a bridge that we're against, but this one doesn't seem the best option.
Thank you very much. Let's see if there are any questions by councilors. Councilor Clausen.
So was there an official resolution and a vote taken?
There was, yeah, we recently, a few years ago, did changed our bylaws to have an email option for voting, and so we did take an email vote, and we voted on a resolution, which I gave Chuck a copy, and I have an extra copy, but.
And the resolution was no bill?
The resolution was no build.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony, Rebecca. Tom Anderson, followed by Allison Fisher, and then Joan Lloyd.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I am honorably retired after 2 terms as chair of the Scan Neighborhood Group. I'm speaking in my individual capacity today, or tonight, or this morning, I'm not sure. I live at 787 Cross Street Southeast. I have to say that I've been following this in the newspaper and the other media, and I think that the council is facing a very interesting choice here tonight and in the future as you move on. There are clearly 2 sides here, and both of them clearly have sincerely held beliefs. So on one side, it seems to me, our business interests that somehow stand to gain economically if the bridge is built, either personally or corporately or generally as an association of business interest. There's also the Statesman Journal, which in a somewhat tautological editorial today said, we need the bridge because we need the bridge. There are citizens who sincerely believe that a bridge is a good thing and is needed. There are citizens who own or work for a business interest. Then there are citizens who would like to save a few minutes in their commute for a few minutes a day. There clearly also are interests outside Salem, the city of Kaiser, the casinos, people in Polk County who don't live in West Salem, the I-5 to the coast crowd. As far as I can see, there's none of those people are going to be paying for the bridge in any way, shape, or form. There are also what appear to be some flawed studies in some people's view. Now, on the other side, you have every neighborhood association that has expressed an opinion, including those on either side of the bridge, including those that city councilors have come to after 4D was changed to the Salem alternative. You have folks who are concerned about the environmental, financial, and human cost of the bridge without any commensurate benefits. I adopt all the comments that have been made with that regard, but I really think we ought to look about the tax burden here. And this is from the city staff, I believe, at a last hearing. Even with the Salem alternative, if just Salem residents pay for this, it'll be $680 a year in their taxes on a $200,000 house for 30 years. That's $20,000+ over 30 years per a $200,000 house. Houses are bigger than that will pay commensurately more. Whether that's a good use of taxpayer money and city expenses will be a decision that you will have to decide, and I would suggest that the facts point toward a no-build alternative. The environmental impact for a no-build alternative is zero.
You see that red light. Thank you very much. Were there any questions of Mr. Anderson? All right, Allison Fisher, and followed by Joan Lloyd, and then Keith Cohen.
Good evening. My name is Allison Fisher, and I live at 680 LaFell Street Southeast. So the first hearing for this bridge was scheduled on Earth Day. Since then, we've reached a critical milestone in the deterioration of the health of our planet. You may have heard, for the first time, we've surpassed 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere. I've got a news flash for you. In the 21st century, we are facing much more serious problems than saving future residents of Polk County a few minutes on their afternoon commute. My husband and I are relatively recent home buyers in Salem. We explored many different locations, including West Salem, and even a brief flirtation with Dallas. We easily could have purchased a suburban house that cost much less per square foot and had modern features. But we made a rational choice to live close enough to walk and bike to work and our kids' schools, to be closer to downtown businesses, and to minimize our carbon footprint. Now that we are faced with, $200 to $600 a year in new property taxes to fund a new bridge, I can't help but feel like we're being penalized for making a rational, environmentally conscious choice. A choice that, according to Salem's comprehensive plan and state transportation planning policies, the city is supposed to be encouraging. I watched the previous hearings on CCTV and paid close attention to the reports from the work sessions. Proponents of the bridge talk about Polk County growth as if it is an unstoppable force of nature that we must accommodate, rather than something we are deliberately promoting with this project. They seem to think that we have no control over the quality of our built environment. They want us to believe that we have no choice but to carve up our neighborhoods, pave our parks, degrade our waterfront, depopulate our downtown, and tax ourselves into poverty. They fail to recognize that future residents may make the rational choice to live closer to major employers, invest in our inner neighborhoods, and use the money they would otherwise be burning in their gas tanks to support local businesses. City staff claim a bridge is essential for future transportation planning. They fail to acknowledge that when we plan for cars and congestion, we get cars and congestion. When we plan for people and places, guess what? We get people and places. I lived most of my teen years in suburban Detroit, so I know exactly how car-centric planning turns out. I was also fortunate to live many years in Germany, and I can't tell you how much I yearn for protected bike lanes and reliable public transportation. So while I appreciate the increased emphasis on livability with the proposed Salem alternative, it is still a very expensive new bridge that we do not need. I implore you to vote no on the Salem alternative proposal because the aspirations of your living, breathing constituents for a cleaner, healthier, more sustainable, and livable city are more important than hypothetical growth statistics in Polk County. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Councilors, Councilor Dickey has a question.
Yeah, thanks for coming down and thanks for your testimony. I'm just going to throw a question out at you, just something I've been kind of thinking about a little bit. So part of the neighborhood I represent is highly affected by this bridge, would be negatively impacted by some of the alternatives that we've looked at. And part of the area I represent has seen tremendous growth in the last 15 or so years, and it's farther north of the more impacted area. And one of the things that has accompanied that growth is the fact that we are farther and farther away from goods and services. And so I'm just curious to know if what you think about, or if there is, if you're aware of like a threshold where someone says, yeah, you know, today I'm gonna ride my bike, or I'm gonna ride the bus to get somewhere. If you had a connection that was closer to these growth areas, if that is more encouraging for people to use alternative modes. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess I don't understand the question. If people live in a higher growth area where they do have those services?
We're not. So what I'm saying is, where part of my neighborhood I represent is grown out much farther from the bridges that we currently have, and so the connectivity is farther away from us than it used to be. If there was some connector that was closer, would that encourage people to use those alternative modes because they don't have to get in their car and drive so many miles to get on a bridge where they have to turn around and backtrack quite a ways? I'm just kind of thinking about if there's a threshold of how many miles someone will say, okay, that's worth it for me to get on my bike versus I'm going to get in my car.
I'm probably not the best person to ask that of because I commute my kids by bike on the back. So I bike almost everywhere.
So do you have a threshold of, okay, that's just too many miles, I'm going to use my car instead?
Well, there's no service that I need that I can't bike to. And I bought my house where I did for that reason. So, yeah, I don't know for other folks what that threshold would be. I mean, I know people who live very close and never walk or bike. So for some people, that threshold is very small. Yeah.
Did I see another counselor's hand up? No. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Joan Lloyd, followed by Keith Cohen, and then Jennifer Brodigan.
Okay. Good evening.
There's
Madam
Joan. Hi.
Mayor and councilors. I'm here to speak for NEN. I'm NEN chair, and I live at 1577 Court Street Northeast. I'm not going to read our resolution. You have that in writing, and I will just summarize by saying that since 2006, when $2 million was allotted for the study of the bridge, it's now up to almost $8 million, and we're not finished, and the spending is going to continue. And so we have, NEN voted to oppose the new bridge, to stop the planning, and to fix what's broken with what we have now, to make it the bridges earthquake-proof, and any egress, anything on each side of the bridge, to see what will happen, and then go and change it if we have to. There's also this theory about long-range planning. I don't know how many years out that's supposed to be, but the way with scientific advancements, the way they are now, that may be too far away to predict what's going to happen. And during our discussion, we decided that the times are changing, and people are walking more. They are using their bicycles more, and we need better transit. Jeffrey Tumlin spoke several weeks ago at Laux Auditorium, and if I recall, he was invited by the planning department. Is that correct? And the title of his talk was something like a healthier, wealthier, walkable city, but it was based on his book called Sustainable Transportation Planning. And he said what we need to do because of this the change in attitude, where people are moving into center city, into cities, rather than going out the suburbs. And just an aside, we also have here in Oregon the oh, come on now, I just thought I'm tired now, where we have the boundary, the urban growth boundary, right? And we want to keep people inside. At any rate, he said, what we need to do now is not encourage driving by limiting parking spaces, by creating bicycle paths and that sort of thing. Better sidewalks, oh my goodness, yes, please. And to not keep paving. And that is particularly bad here in Salem, where we do have flooding, to keep on paving over the soil that can take all the water. At any rate, again, NEN would encourage City Council to vote no for this new bridge, and instead somehow start planning for fixing up what we have now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there questions from any of the counselors? All right, Keith Cohen, followed by Jennifer Brodigan.
Good evening. I'm Keith Cohen from Ward 5, and I'd like to thank you for allowing me to stand here in opposition to the Salem Alternative Bridge and in opposition to continuing this process of examining the Salem Alternative Bridge. And I'd like to ask that everybody else in the room who is opposed to the Salem Alternative Bridge and opposed to continuing this process of investigation and the DEIS, please stand. Thank you very much. I attended the Lansing Neighborhood Association meeting, of which I am a member, at the last meeting, and we addressed the issue with a resolution. I believe the council has the resolution in their possession. It's almost identical to the Northwest Neighborhood Association resolution. And specifically, we addressed Councilor Clem's question about the Salem alternative, whether or not we were focusing in on the Salem alternative and not 4D. And yes, the entire meeting and resolution was focused on the Salem alternative. We didn't call it that because we didn't know it was called that. But it was focused on the image that was presented to the the City Council of the Salem alternative, and the vote was unanimous in favor of stopping the Salem alternative and in favor of stopping the process of creating the DEIS and continuing to spend money on this. It was in favor of a no-bill option. There were three things that stood out in that meeting. The first was that there was nobody who spoke even a word in favor. The second thing is that the brownies were terrific at the end of the meeting. That was really good. And the third thing is that, I can't remember what the third thing is. I get stuck on the brownies part. What was in the brownies? The what? Oh, the lighting, yes, that we didn't have enough money to continue lighting the park. And there was concern about that at the meeting. And here we sit spending $100,000 a month on a study when we don't have enough money to pay for a street light. So I stand in opposition. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there questions by any of the councilors? Well, we appreciate you coming down and testifying. Thank you. Jennifer Brodigan. Following Jennifer, there's no one else signed up, but I will ask if anybody does want to speak, please, move to the microphone and we'll get you on the list. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Brodigan. I've lived in West Salem for 10.5 years, and I am absolutely in favor of building another bridge. It's been fascinating for me to sit and listen to so many opinions that view our community as stagnant and not growing. I see our community is growing, flourishing, developing. I want this community to be a place where my grandchildren will have their children and they will stay here. They will have the opportunities to be able to own homes, build businesses. There will be jobs here for them. But if we have the short vision that limits what will happen and how we will grow, they won't be able to stay here. When I think about a few years ago when that man tied himself to the bridge and threatened to jump and hang himself, and maybe you weren't affected. I lived in West Salem. I wasn't that impacted because my children are grown. But I know so many people who couldn't get across the bridge to get to their children. If something happens to having only one mode of crossing that river, and we have something significant, not just an event that lasts an evening and a night, what will happen? What will happen to the kids and the parents who can't get to each other? To have a limited vision that does not see our community as in 20 to 30 years, having a far greater population and far greater need for smooth running transportation is very short-sighted. And I urge you to continue the responsible process that you've already taken by all of these studies. Yes, they cost money, but it gives the valuable information that will create the system that will allow us to make the right decisions and the right choices. And I would encourage that process to continue. I think it's money well spent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? All right. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Bill Smaldone. I live at 430 21st Street Southeast, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Southeast Salem Neighborhood Association, of which I'm chair. We also passed a resolution in opposition to the bridge. I won't repeat the resolution we sent to the council. You guys have it in your record, nor will I repeat most of the things that were said tonight. But a couple of things came up during tonight's conversation that made me think of a couple of angles that might be interesting to think about. One reason why our neighborhood association decided that we were against the models that we'd been informed about was that we felt that our friends over in Highland were going to face some of the same problems we have when they built the Mission Street overpass. And if you are familiar with that area, you know that a lot of the neighborhoods around it were pretty severely damaged. If you go over to Tripp Street and some of the streets over there, I don't think they ever really recovered from the construction of that overpass. So we were very concerned with the kinds of off-ramps and on-ramps that the project would have. Maybe the new Salem alternative, about which we had not really been informed, would mitigate some of that. I'm not so sure about Highlands. It seemed to do so in West Salem. But that was one of our concerns, and we felt, especially after hearing my colleague from Highlands say that that's still a concern of theirs, we felt that was a very important issue. A second thing that came to mind during the discussion was that it might be worth thinking about the idea that sometimes less is really more. That progress is not always made with a big build. And I want to give you an example of an item that came before the council about 12 years ago. Some of you might remember. There was a proposal to build 12th Street out into a 5-lane road. And that would have wrecked the Morningside Neighborhood Association area. There was a lot of opposition to that, and in the end, a 3-lane road was built. The neighborhood was really preserved in the state that it's in now, and disaster did not befall the city. There's been 12 years of growth in South Salem. People still get to work on time. Maybe it's a little slow at certain times of the day, but it was decided at that time it was not worth wrecking the whole neighborhood to build a 5-lane conduit to the south so that more houses could be built and more people could be transported in the traditional mode that people wanted, and some people wanted. Now, this brings me to my concluding comment. Some people have talked about the need to move forward. Some people have talked about the need to plan for growth. You can do that, but you can do it in really innovative ways. We could be a model for the future. We could be a model for other places in Oregon and the Northwest if we really put our mind to alternative modes of transportation. Our staff here has traditionally said, when our roads get built out, and when the traffic fills the roads that are built out, we can't go any wider, then you move into alternative modes. But then it's too late. You have to move into the alternative modes before you build everything out and stuff them full of cars, which is the tradition. So that's what we need to do. We can move forward. We can have progress. We can accommodate more people. I want my grandchildren also to be able to cross the river, but I want them to do it on the bus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Smaldone? All right, thanks very much. And let's see, I think that the gentleman just standing there wanted to testify. Would you like to testify? Certainly. Let's let him, he was standing first, and then you.
I won't take a lot of your
Just
time.
give your name and your address or your ward, please.
My name is Al Gersh. I live on Tryon Street in Northeast. It's going to be right over there. It's going to be a cloverleaf. I was just reading about it today in the Statesman Journal. This has been fascinating, by the way. there's a couple things. For one thing, the airport is about to lose air traffic controllers because of what's going on in Congress. They're pulling back all the federal money. September 30th, there will be no air traffic controllers at the Salem airport. Does anybody realize this? There's not going to be a whole lot of other money coming this way. What if there's another 2008? The Dow went up to 15,000. I see that as the same thing that happened before 2008. This money is not going to flow like water. Does blank check mean anything to you about these projects? To me, it's unbelievable. It's just out of sight for a bridge. It's just unbelievable. My folks came here in '69. It was very livable. I've been in and out of Salem. I made it up to Central Oregon, and I really loved it. But now I come back because of a personal injury. I had to get a little thing like a pacemaker. And so it's really amazing to see the change and the growth and all this, but I don't think it's sustainable whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, thank you very much. Welcome. You just state your name and your address for me.
Evan Lloyd, 1577 Court Street, Northeast. I'm sure you were all mesmerized and captivated by my email that I sent to you all at the end of last week. It's somewhat, it's in the same vein. I remain adamantly opposed to this bridge proposal. I think what Salem really must do before it takes on any additional infrastructure work, any additional anything, virtually, is for the city to allow these neighborhood plans to go through and be completed, and to, on the basis of those, the results of these neighborhood plans and input from the planning department and the available financing at the time, is to come up with a clear definition of what you want Salem to be. You cannot have, it cannot be all things to all people. It could be, I mean, if you want an airport developed, well, why? If you want, if you want to try to develop new business in town, well, that's fine. But what you have to realize is that there's no real tangible anchor for new businesses to sprout from. One, there's not a major research university. Two, there's not a major super employer here, i.e., or for example, Nike, Intel, somebody, or Boeing, or almost anybody. But there's no anchor there for people to come here. So what you have to do is you have to make it clear to ourselves as to what this city is to become. And that's the basis of my additional comments. I think that, everybody here is a worthy person. My heavens, we're all entitled to our opinions. But I think when it really comes down to the bottom line, the end of the bottom line, the end of the end, the balance of the balance, the net income, after taxes, everything else, that you have to determine what this city is to become. Thank you.
Thank you. Your last name again was?
Lloyd, L-L-O-Y-D.
Were there any questions for Mr. Lloyd? All right. Thank you very much.
You.
Okay. I believe the lady on that side is next. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Peterson, or Mayor Peterson, and city councilors. My name's Janine Stice, and I came to the meeting tonight to listen to the comments and to observe city council. And what I would encourage city council to do on this issue is to really go beyond the walls of this building and try to seek public input beyond the testimony that you received tonight. I've been a member of this community for over 10 years, and I hadn't attended many neighborhood associations prior to just this last spring. And I started to get involved with our neighborhood associations, Just Walk, and some of the walking work that's the city's been fabulous at partnering us with. And what I noticed is there's very low attendance actually at our neighborhood association meeting. I don't know if that's a reflection across the city or not, but I think the communication between the neighborhood association and the residents in those groups is very minimal. so that, as a neighbor and as a resident, I wouldn't even know that this was an issue if it hadn't been in the newspaper. So I would encourage you to get out and really go to Rotary groups, other places where you can hear more people and groups that are large and get a real good idea about how they feel about the bridge. Then I just have a couple, maybe one little comment about the bridge. When my husband and I moved here, we ended up in our neighborhood because he didn't want to go over a bridge. He wanted to be 5 miles from his house within walking distance of his office. That's because we came from Charleston, South Carolina, and and Charleston is, Peninsula Charleston's bordered by 2 rivers of water. And, probably the worst thing I experienced in my life was sitting in a hospital for 48 hours with coworkers who were dying to get back to their house, and they couldn't because the Ben Sawyer Bridge had spun around in Hurricane Hugo. And I think the thing about disasters is you can do all this preparation and bulk up that bridge, that one bridge you have, but you don't know if it works until the disaster hits. And, our community is divided by that river. My husband and I did a little bike ride to the Buena Vista Ferry. You don't have a lot of ways to access the other side of the city except that bridge. And so, I really would support another bridge just because of that. And I watched the city rebuild itself with federal, state, county connectivity and multiple bridges. And the greatest thing I saw just this last year was revisiting the city of Charleston to see the rebuilding of the Cooper River Bridge. And it is unbelievable, the infrastructure that city has built. You see why Boeing is there, and it's because the infrastructure was built to bring the people there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions by councilors? Councilor Tesler has a question. Would
Just
you
a quick
come back
one
down
for
to
you,
the podium?
Janine.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I really enjoy your column in the newspaper. You do a good job with your column in the newspaper.
thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank
I always enjoy reading your column.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
Anyway, does any other questions? I'm sorry about that.
Were there questions? Okay, thanks very much. All right, yes, thank
Hi,
you.
Madam Mayor, councilor members, thank you for allowing us to express our opinions tonight, as wide and diverse as they are. My name is Tim Fondrick. I live at 1510 Wallace Road in West Salem, and I have a business downtown on Court Street. I've been a longtime resident of West Salem, grew up on Wallace Road. I've seen the changes as it has happened. Moved to Wallace Road in 1972, so I've been there a long time. I've seen Wallace Road widen from a little country lane, 2-lane highway or 2-lane road to what it is today. And I have to say that despite being a property that is impacted and would be impacted continually for congestion and traffic, I would have to support the Salem Bridge or the Salem alternative. Thank you for all the work that you have done for it. I think it is important to continue to look at all alternatives, and I think you guys are doing that in a real and valid way. There is no perfect solution. We know that. But it is, I think, for those that choose to live and work and play right close to where they live, that's fantastic. There are other options as well, and I think we have to look forward and plan for where we're going to be, not today, not for a commute today or any options today, but where we're going to be 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And again, I've been around the community a long time, live on Wallace Road, and it's hard to see those changes in some way. I'll see Marine Drive, I'll see, the bridge would come out right at Hope, which would be right close to where I live. But at the same time, I have to think about, okay, what do we want overall as a community, and keep thinking about what are the best options in all kinds of ways. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Tim, what is your last name?
Fondrick.
How do you
F as in
spell it?
Frank, AHNDRICH.
Thank you very much. Is there one more person who wants to testify? Yes?
Can I be the one more?
You may. You may.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Tim Clark. Live at 2763 Weatherford Court, Northwest in West Salem. Been a resident for quite a few years. Also have a business in West Salem. Very active with many different groups throughout the community of West Salem. Love it. great place to be. Nothing better than being on the west side. Sorry, folks, that's just the way it is. Thank you for your time, Madam Peterson and councilors. I have a little history on it, and one of them that I want to bring attention was the West Salem Neighborhood Plan that was brought up many years ago, or let's say 10 years ago. And I sat on that committee. And I remember that time, the decision to do things in West Salem. And the number one thing is getting a third bridge. That was top of the list. And so it was a given. Everyone wanted a third bridge. And so going to the neighborhood association in West Salem, I would happen to be kind of the presenter for the group. And it had a lot of conversation at that time, but we all agreed that the third bridge was important. And tonight I see opposition on both sides, good and bad. I'm glad everyone's discussing it, but I agree with Tim. We got to look to the future. And the future ahead of us is growth. And I'm sorry to say that we can't always stay the same little small area that we once grew up with. Things get to a point where we have to look for our children. And that's my concern, is looking for the future for our kids and how we could make this area better. Yes, there's alternatives out there for pedestrian, using the bus system, biking. Those are things that have been talked about many times. But I think we have to look at the big picture. And the big picture is the connectivity throughout one side of town to the other, west to east, north to south. And I really do think that this alternative that you guys are leading towards is a benefit for the community in the long run. And that's what I believe that we need to do as you guys make this decision, is to move forward for that progress. And I'm done with that, and
Okay.
I'm open for questions. We'll
Thank
run
you.
away.
Are there questions
Here.
by any counselors? All right. Counselor Nanke.
Thank you, ma'am. So were you at the most recent West Salem Neighborhood Association meeting?
No,
then?
I wasn't. At that time, that there was not a vote. I was not at the most current time. I didn't even know there was a vote for it, so. But I have been on other committees with the West Rab and prior to the Neighborhood Association, or the West Salem Neighborhood Plan, when that was implemented to the community. But I wasn't at the vote for this. And I would have voted against. I would, on the no deal, I would say, we got to go forward, guys. We need the bridge. And if we keep waiting and waiting and waiting, just like the folks back in 1940, look where we're at now. Still talking about it. We need to be aggressive and go forward.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Do I see another person who wants to? All right. One more. Here we go. Your name, please?
Okay, my name is Laurie Doherty. I live in Ward 2, 462 20th Street Southeast. I'm opposed to the bridge. I'm opposed to continuing the process. It's already been an enormous drain on the city's finances to the tune of millions of dollars, and a drain on planning resources, and that will continue if we continue with this process, drain money and funds and, people's time and talents. If the bridge goes forward, we're talking about some unknown hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is a city that can't even afford to have a decent bus system. I'd like to point out that nobody who relied on a bus could be in this room now because the buses have all gone. Nobody who lives in West Salem could have been in this room longer. I mean, they would have had to leave up a couple of hours ago because the buses in West Salem would have been long gone. And I just think this is a kind of skewed sense of priorities. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Were there any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That concludes the public testimony portion of this hearing. I'm going to close the hearing, and then I'm going to ask for a motion. No?
If we have questions of staff? Yes.
Oh, that's right. All right, I'm not closing the hearing. We're going to have questions of staff. I would like us to have a break, and so let's just have a, 8 to 10 minute break, get your... All right, before we break, I need a motion for 45-minute extension. Well, that's what's in front of us.
Yeah,
All right.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I move extension of 45 minutes.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Clausen for 45 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, raise your hands. 3, 4. All right, motion carries.
No, it's a tie.
It doesn't?
It fails. Motion fails.
It'll be quicker if people quit.
I have not adjourned us. We have serious work yet to do tonight. Some people may think it's not very pleasant to stay here for 45 more minutes. I don't either. But we have work to get done. I'd like to have a motion, a reasonable motion with reasonable consideration. Councilor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I'll move extension of 30 minutes.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Councilor Bennett, seconded by Councilor Clausen for a 30-minute extension. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. We're going to take a break.
Hearing on the Salem River crossing be continued for 45 days to allow the City Council to receive additional written testimony and have time to review project alternatives and options.
Second.
All right. I'm sorry, we were talking. I wanted to be certain. I know. Yeah, I wanted to be certain if we were going to have any further questions of staff tonight, or if we will
sorry.
continue that. No, it's fine. I asked you to do the motion. So, City Attorney, do we...
Could you repeat the motion, Councilor Bennett?
Okay, we'll see what our...
I move the public hearing on the Salem River crossing be continued for 45 days to allow the City Council to receive additional written testimony and time to review project alternatives and options.
Second.
Okay.
No, you just, if it's continued.
Just continue.
Still open,
Okay.
you can ask questions.
And so we won't need, we won't take time this evening for questions of staff. There's a motion. Do I have a second? Oh, all right. Moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Clem to continue the hearing for 45 days. Was that this, the date to June 24th?
I think you're talking about the first regular meeting in July.
Am I?
24 June was the date we talked about.
24th of June. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
I would then say do a date certain rather than 45 days. June 24th?
Yeah, let's just, I'll just amend it to June 24th. That's fine.
To June 24th. Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Councilor Nanki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, there are some questions that I'd like to submit to staff, if they can then respond and just incorporate that into the public record at the June 24th meeting. Is that?
That's been a council practice in the past.
I just wanted
would
to-
think that would be not be a problem.
All right. Councilor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My expectation as well is that we will have an opportunity as either a full council or members of the councils to sit down and work on this project. This is, I heard it from both sides very clearly. This is not ready for prime time, and that we need to do some additional work to see if we even can find an acceptable alternative to a majority of the council. And that's what I think we need to do as part of the project. So hopefully we'd be able to ask questions during that process as well.
Sure. Okay. All right. There's a motion on the floor. We'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We have next no special orders of business and no unfinished business, but we have information reports in your packet. If there are no questions about information reports, they will stand as they are in our packets, and we'll move on to ordinances. Would the city recorder please introduce the first ordinance?
Can you share yours with me?
Sorry, I tidied up and I put my stuff away.
All right, that's okay.
Ordinance Bill Number 2113 relating to performance security of public improvements and amending SRC 63.052, 63.053, and 63.360.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett?
Madam Mayor, I move the staff recommendation.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor, was it Nanki? Thank you. To move the staff recommendation. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. 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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Would the recorder please introduce the second ordinance?
Mayor, on the second ordinance bill that's on the agenda, this has already been to the council for first reading. It was referred to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has made some recommendations to change the language in the ordinance, so the title does not need to be read again. However, what does need to happen is that if the council agrees that that the Planning Commission's recommendations should be incorporated into the ordinance, then it should make a motion to amend the ordinance bill, and it will then be brought back for second reading as an engrossed ordinance bill.
All right,
Madam
thank
Mayor,
you.
Madam Mayor, and that
Yes.
recommendation in the original agenda was a little bit, there was a couple typos in there, and so we put it on additions.
Yay.
Yeah, so if you make staff recommendation, it's the right way to do it.
Okay.
That's the right answer.
All right.
Okay.
Still
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councillor Bennett.
I move the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Nanki to move the staff recommendation. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And now for second reading, 8.2A.
Engrossed ordinance bill number 7-13 relating to the Comprehensive Park System Master Plan update, amending the Salem Area Comprehensive Plan. Councillor Clausen? Aye. Councillor Dickey?
Aye.
Councillor Thomas?
Aye.
Councillor Bernards is absent. Councillor Clem?
Aye.
Councillor Bennett?
Aye.
Councillor Tessler?
Absolutely aye.
Councillor Nanki?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. We now have public comment, and there are three people who've signed up for public comment tonight. Mark Connect, David Brown, and then Sean Skilleram? No. Sam Skilleran. Ha, Sam, if I put my glasses on, we'd do a lot better, wouldn't we? Okay. Okay, Mark Connect.
Yes, good evening,
Up
folks.
first.
My name is Mark Connect, and I reside at 1835 Beach Avenue Northeast, Apartment 2. And as you can see, I support the bridge, and also Mayor Peterson and the Public Works Department. I want to thank you for, I've been an advocate on making that McGillcrest area very accessible, and I could not have done it alone. I knew where to go to get the Calvary, and I want to thank you for going out with Kurt Schrader and Merkley when they were here. And so I feel very, very proud about that project. And also, I hear at some point downtown here, I hear you're going to put in paid parking meters again or something to that effect. Is there something to that effect?
Well, that has not come to council yet. The recommendation has come from the parking task force, but we haven't brought it to council yet.
Okay, well, if you do that, then I'll go out to the mall and go shopping. But anyway, that's beside the point. But another point I want to bring up, I'm also on the Salem Kaiser Advisory Commission Board for the Salem Transit Chariots. And I've heard a lot of testimony here tonight about bus service. Okay, the reason we do not have any bus service on Saturday in this community anymore, the taxpayers did not support the last levy. And at some point, we're going to have to do something in this community. Up in Portland and Eugene, they pay for those through payroll tax. And down there in Los Angeles, where the manager of the transit, he came from down there. They had their gasoline tax, city gasoline tax goes for transit. But here it does not. But some way and somehow, something's going to have to give here in another year and a half, or we're going to be in dire constraints with the transit. So
Okay.
that's all I had to say tonight.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate you waiting so long to testify. Were there any questions for Mr. Knecht? Okay, thank you so much. David Brown, is David Brown still here? Yes, there he is. Welcome. Okay.
I got extended curfew. My name is David Brown. I live at 658 Center Street Northeast, and I have something to say about the mission. I don't know if it's the appropriate place, but I used to volunteer there and lived there on their program for a while, and left because I was kicked out. Because I was having problems with, well, let's see, they're donor driven, as many nonprofits are, and in the kitchen, for one, they have black mold. Let the meat set out for overnight when it's thawed and stuff. Turkeys for Thanksgiving, which the public come and eat and the public donate money to have. And they use underwear for their coffee filters in the big bun makers over there because they're too cheap to buy filters. And I offered to use my own money to buy filters. No, they wouldn't let me do that. But they had the money to send the director on his probably very reasonable annual conference, but to Disney World. I don't know what adults are doing at a children's theme park when they can't go to the Marriott down the street, but it just didn't seem like a good use of money. And then the black mold up in the upstairs dorm, when I would help out and volunteer and live up there, the city was not allowed to go up to the top floor. They used the old chapel as their own demo, and they kept that very nice. Spent money on the floor and the bathrooms. Upstairs, there's holes in the walls. I had a staph infection in my body for almost 2 weeks because the showers weren't cleaned out with bleach. Bleach was something they wouldn't buy. Instead, they used, I think, pine sol. And then there's black mold and holes in the walls, and they paint over it for some time, but it doesn't fix the problem. And I know there's really need for a mission. I mean, you're not going to end homelessness, I don't think, completely. And I'm sure it's unfortunate to have a mission, but it beats them on the street, especially in the cold or if it's overly hot. And if the mission's not going to fall apart, someone's got to do something about that. And I know it's expensive, but if donors are giving money, I hope some of that can be used to make sure that building, whether it stays there forever or goes somewhere else, isn't going to fall apart and people get sick or whatever. It's just, I tried talking to the people that do the inspections, and I don't recall if it was something they could do or if it was something that they shifted me to the county because there was a lot of health problems, but I don't know where to go.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your testimony, and we'll certainly check with some of the people that we're working with in our Safe Streets and Parks Task Force who are on the shelter subcommittee of that, and bring your concerns to that if you would like us to do that.
Please, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for coming tonight. All right, Sam Skilren, are you going to be the last person to testify tonight?
I think so.
Welcome.
Luckily, you have a 3-minute limit, or we'd be here for a couple more hours. So, I'm here with my Salem Leadership Foundation hat on. So I'm Sam Skillern. I live at 1255 Cottage Street Northeast. The Leadership Foundation is located on Madison Street. I wanted you all to know about the NAIA National Championship Golf Tournament is here in our community. This is the Natties, the national tournament for 32 schools. There's about 130 golfers in our town with their coaches and their families. I think they're dropping a couple $100,000 while they're here at hotels and restaurants. And so it's out at Creekside Golf Course. Today was the practice round, but tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday are the competitive rounds. There's going to be a cut then, and the final round will be on Friday. So we've just got some amazing golf talent here. We heard Casey Martin from the University of Oregon. He's the duck coach. He spoke yesterday at the opening breakfast. It's sponsored by a group called For Salem, F-O-R-E Salem. It's made up of 4 organizations. There's a business, TNT Management Resources is the title sponsor of the event, but they were less concerned about having their name on it than to have 3 of the nonprofits that they love be part of it. So TNT is one of the organizations in For Salem, but the others are the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Corbin University, which is the host team for the conference, for the national tournament, and then Good Old Salem Leadership Foundation. So I don't know if this is permissible, so I'm looking at City Attorney Tosh. I did bring a ball for every member of council, if permissible. If not,
And how much does the ball cost?
these were about $1 each.
As long as you don't give 50 of them within a single calendar year.
Okay. Rats, that's exactly what I was thinking about doing, but so I do have. So anyway, just wanted to give a tip of the hat to Creekside. They put on a great tournament, a tip of the hat to TNT Management Resources, a tip of the hat to our great community of Salem. And if you get a chance to go out and watch some of these young fellas play, they're the best in the country at the NAIA level, and Corbin University is part of that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. One of the neat things we're doing is it's not just golfers coming to town, they're also sharing. We have a deal where the players are actually interacting with kids from our local schools. Some of them are golfers already, but the exciting interaction that we have is with the First Tee Foundation. And so a lot of kids in our neighborhoods, like Grant and Richmond and Highland and Washington, they're learning how to play golf out on the baseball fields with PE teachers and volunteers. They're going to be able to go out to Creekside and hit balls on the driving range and putt balls on the green and see what a country club and a golf course looks like. And most importantly, they're going to get to meet college athletes who are at the top of their game, both in sports, but more importantly in academics. So I want to tip the hat to Joe Johnson. He's the PE teacher at Grant Community School and one of the First Tee coaches who's organizing this opportunity for the kids to have a really cool experience. So For Salem, and I'll bring a ball out to everybody right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Did anyone have questions of Sam? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay, the next item that we have is a mayor's item, and you find in your packet, thank you. You find in your packet my mayor's motion, which is that I move that City Council authorize the formation of a Mayor's International Council, and we use up to $3,000 in the fiscal year 2014 to provide for ongoing activities associated with the Mayor's International Council. Many of you have heard me talking about this actually since I was first elected, and now it's, with your blessing, would be able to come to fruition. And the purpose is going to be to raise awareness of our international qualities in Salem and to promote the cultural richness of Salem through highlighting the strengths of the various cultures that exist in our community, partnering with cultural activities through collaboration with Salem Multicultural Institute, the Human Rights and Relations Advisory Commission, Tokyo International University of America, and many other of our partners around the community. We want to bolster, this could bolster support for our sister city events and activities, and also develop or strengthen relationships among Salem's various cultural groups. It could assist the mayor and city council in welcoming international delegates to Salem. Excuse me. Excuse me. And indirectly assist in attracting international businesses that value locating in an interculturally accepting community. So that's my motion, and I certainly would hope for a second to my motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. It's been moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Bennett. Is there discussion? Councilor Tesler. All right. That'd be good. All right. It's been Councilor Thomas.
What are the steps that are being taken currently for these types of?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
what are the steps that are being taken right now for these activities? What are we doing now, currently, for these types of activities?
We currently have sister city relationships. We currently have our Human Rights and Relations Commission. We currently have activities that we do, like, for instance, we help provide funding for the Salem Multicultural Institute. There are just a broad variety of activities that we are involved in now with various sister cities and with these other groups. But what this would do would be to more formalize the relationships and would establish a council made up of people from the various organizations to assist us with really strengthening those intercultural relationships across the city.
And so, where is the funding coming from?
The funding from this comes from a fund that's already established, and it is the, I believe it's in the mayor's and city councilors,
the mayor
mayors
and
and
council
city
budget.
managers' budget.
Under other special payments, and we have funds there when we host delegates from other countries or to help pay for volunteer recognition and some items like that.
And so, this is going to be extra. This 3,000 is going to be extra.
So of the, I think it's about 30,000 in that budget. It would be 3,000 of that 30,000.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Okay. Other questions? All right, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And we have a counselor's item. Counselor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Salem Revised Code, Chapter 86, be referred to staff for review and revision.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Bennett and seconded by Counselor Tessler to refer the Salem Revised Code, Chapter 86, to staff for review and revision. Is there discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I believe the controversy over the removal of the trees along State Street highlighted a series of problems inside this code. I've talked with the Public Works folks. They agree. It just lacked some basic clarity and clear criteria. My goal is, in making the motion, is to have staff develop specific criteria for the management of the street trees. And I expect they'll engage all of the involved parties, the Shade Tree Advisory Committee, neighborhood associations, and then any other key stakeholders. In dealing with folks in the aftermath of, and really we're in the midst of this issue down at U.S. Bank, it just became really clear nobody quite knew what exactly, except Mr. Fernandez, what was going on, and he said cut the trees. And he's kind of asking, could we help him out here, I think, and have a clear statement of the criteria that he's to use.
Thank you. Well, I would certainly speak to the motion and support it. I think that we do need to have a clear understanding and a review and perhaps some real changes in a tree code that really was written several years ago and probably needs a good overview and a good redo. Councillor Clem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The decision, the intent of your motion, if I could, to the maker of the motion, is that the Public Works Director still retain the authority to decide whether the trees comes or goes.
That's correct.
Is the intent of the motion just to add criteria by which he makes his decision? I'm concerned that council is still in the decision-making process.
Council's not in the decision-making process. Council, in this case, the only decision we're making is to get this issue in front of the correct people to get it cleaned up. And it specifically, at least in my commentary, I specifically state I don't want to see council brought into the decision-making process. I think it is correctly done the way it is, but I'm not clear the criteria are as complete as anyone trying to deal with this problem would want. And when you listen to the problems folks go through on either side of this issue, it is just clear this is about as clear as mud right now, and it needs to be fixed. And I think it's a chance Mr. Fernandez, I'm sure, can speak to it.
Yeah, Mr. Fernandez, would you like to speak to
Mayor,
this?
if I may, this is a code chapter that we inherited when the parks operations folks were transferred to us, and for the most part, street trees, go about their merry way. Shade tree is advisory to the director. I approve virtually every recommendation that they provide. This one became controversial, and as I became well-read in the chapter, it became clear that there is no criteria in Chapter 86 at all with respect to why should a tree be, if somebody comes and wants to remove a street tree from in front of their property, what is the criteria for it? There is none. So what we govern ourselves by is if the urban forester finds that the tree is sick, then it's just removed. But we've had situations where people just wanted them removed when they were perfectly healthy, such as the U.S. Bank situation. And there's no criteria. So it just becomes one of emotion and opinion, but no criteria to follow. And that's, in fact, the staff's already worked up over the years, has worked up a lot of this information. So what we want to do is lay that out, have council adopt the criteria into the code, but then as Councilor Bennett has masterfully written in his motion memo here, is not, once council lays out the criteria, then we'll go back to shade tree reviewing and recommending to the director making a final decision, and then 20J kicks in if there wants to be an appeal to the hearings officer, and we strongly support and recommend that aspect of it. So it's really just criteria that citizens can know how to govern themselves, shade tree can know how to govern themselves, and then staff can review and say, yes, the criteria has been followed or has not been followed.
Yes, do you have a question?
Make it, yeah.
Yes.
My understanding is that let me try to think about this. The council isn't going to actually be the one or proposing or accepting the actual code or the actual changes to it, just that it will be changed?
No. The code revisions, thank you for asking. Code revisions have to be adopted by council.
Okay, but
so we will engage the Shade Tree Committee, neighborhood associations, other interested stakeholders. We will develop, hopefully with consensus, what the criteria is. That will come back to council. Council may choose to have a public hearing on the criteria, or may adopt it directly. And then once it's adopted, then what we're saying is that what we're not going to propose for changes when there is a tree issue, a state tree, a street tree issue, that those issues would not come to council, the specific issues. Council will have laid out the criteria.
Okay.
All right, further discussion. Councilor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will this address then, we've had several tree issues over millennia here, where they grow up differently than how we thought they might. Their placement was such that it's blocking people's signs, nobody can see their business.
We can look at all of that. Yes.
And then way back when Mr. Beasley was in, and he either had a tree that had to be removed for some reason, and he was surrounded by trees, and we forced him to stick another one in to where he would get no light.
Yeah, so those are all the issues. So for example, we've had business sign issues, we've had, oh, hey, you need another, so all that obviously we can't look at everything, so there'll be, I can assure you that the last criteria will be, or something else that we haven't thought of, and that's what, and that's what Shade Tree Committee is for, is to explore those issues. But we want to lay it out, and so that folks have some certainty, so that we can approach them, and they can look and they can see whether they meet the criteria or not, and Shade Tree Committee can look to see, and if there's an appeal, the hearings officer can see if there's something's been followed, and there's facts and not just opinion and emotion, which tends to be the driving force when the tree isn't sick. Thanks.
I have one more thing.
Yes?
As you say, when the tree isn't sick, but I know some of the bigger deals especially with this one down on State Street, is that it's tearing up the sidewalk, and I'm not sure the issues with that. I'm not really invested in all that. But the health safety of walking down a sidewalk where it's been torn up by the tree, and the cost to the business owner or the location, if it's a residential, usually they'll have to replace a sidewalk. That seems like, to me, almost more important than the health of the tree. I mean, the health of the tree is, of course, is important, but if it's a healthy tree, but still tearing up the ground around it, I guess that's similar to what you were saying about it interfering with the business signs. I almost feel that should be something as well. I mean, is that brought up at all?
Yeah, so our code already requires that if the street tree is affecting the sidewalk, it is the city's responsibility because the city owns the trees. So that's already our responsibility, and that would probably not change. Just very briefly, the issue at U.S. Bank is that one of the criteria that is in the code that was put in 2002 at the behest of downtown property owners is that if a tree is blocking a historic facade, then there is criteria for removing the tree, and that was the piece of the code that was in there, and that's why U.S. Bank got permission to remove those trees, is because that criteria is in fact in that criterion is in fact in there, but there is no other criteria beyond that.
All right, further questions? Councillor Tesler.
I think Peter also forgot to mention that the forester did go down and look at those trees and the impact to the sidewalk, and I'm sorry, that's a false claim that the trees were impacting the sidewalk outside the bank. That is a false claim. That is misinformation, and that report clearly states that the trees are not impacting the sidewalk. Just FYI. You can get the report from Peter.
It was only the facade issue. The sidewalk issue had been resolved.
Yeah.
All right, shall we call for the question? All those in favor of Councillor's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries, and we are adjourned.